Yeah, buddy. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, feds and degenerates, cuckolds of all ages. It's that time again. Wednesday, 7 p.m. What? Mild's an hour later. It's Mild's Culture Plate. It's Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. And wow, folks, we have a hodgepodge show tonight. I want to talk a little bit about some of the conversations that happen online and in other spaces about the LGBT community being attacked by people who are homophobic and transphobic. Hang on, my light's all screwed up here. Let's try that a little better. And then we're going to be talking about a couple of other topics just kind of randomly. And then after that, we're going to go live with the Fox Business Channel to the Republican debates. And we're going to have a live watch party of the Republican debates in the second half of this 2-hour expanded edition of Mild's Culture Plate. And as always, what we do here, if you say hello in the chat, I give you a toast of whatever I'm drinking. Let me do, see, we're doing a little Yellowstone Select Kentucky Straight Bourbon. So that's what I'm going to be drinking tonight. I'll give you a toast if you say hello in the chat. Always like when people let me know they're here and watching. Oh my. Having some fun. As I said on the last two streams, I've got a little bit of new things developing in my life. I've been sort of on a diet, so been a little more irritable than usual. Looks like we got someone in the chat. WWKK, cheers to you. And over on Rumble, we got Sanglan86. Cheers to you, my friend. Welcome. Well, welcome to both of you. Hope you enjoy your time here. Yeah, so been a little more irritable. So having some conversations with people in my life about things like diet, exercise. You know, there have been a lot of conversations about gym etiquette. And, you know, we've had these videos, right? These videos that keep going viral. And I'm not going to post the latest one. I'm not going to bring up the latest one, but there was another one this week. And this one wasn't in the gym. She was pumping gas, and look, someone's staring at me while pumping gas, and like you can literally not see anyone staring at her in the video. No one's acting creepy, nothing. But she's just complaining that she feels unsafe pumping gas in her fucking sports bra and yoga pants. And of course, you know, everyone in the comments is telling her to put on clothes, and it is what it is. But yeah, I was having some conversations about gym etiquette and the way people go to the gym already looking like they don't need to go to the gym, meaning, you know, like not necessarily in street clothes, but the workout gear they're using, like you could tell they're dressing for sex, not success, right? I think we played one last week on the show where a woman was in workout gear in Japan and said, oh, you know, they're staring at me. And then she switches to like a t-shirt and some baggy pants and is like, oh yeah, this is what everyone wears in Japan if you don't want to get stared at. I wear whatever the hell. I usually wear pajama pants and a t-shirt to the gym. But yeah, I see the thoughterry. I see it firsthand. And this kind of brought up a different topic. You know, you start with one topic and it jumps from topic to topic when you're talking to friends and real life people. So one other topic, sort of one of our main topics here on the show today, was it was a bullshit article, and I'll bring it up here in just a second. There was a bullshit article. I mean, I think it's clearly faker than fake, you know, faker than fake news. Not only is it fake news, it's kind of old news, but it popped up in the feed of someone, you know, in my personal life. And it engaged us in a huge discussion, right? So frequently online, we see all of these accusations about how dangerous it is for gay folks and transgender folks in to go about their daily life, and in particularly to date, right? That, you know, their partners may not be as open as they are, and if you step on toes, well, that could be deadly. I mean, they could pull a gun and shoot you, right? So let me bring this up here. And again, this article is obviously bullshit. Don't go to this website. Like, this is clearly fake news. I've tried to find this news article on any other website. It does not exist. So let's bring this up. This engaged us in conversation. Man shot his doctor after he made him climax during a prostate exam. Now, look, I'm not saying that this has never happened or this wouldn't happen, or that maybe that, you know, maybe this is a true story, but I cannot find this news article on any other website. This is from Social News Daily. Don't go here. By Aaron Granger. Now, again, I'm not calling Aaron Granger a liar. I'm just wondering where his reporting is from. And this says it was 3 months ago, but the day of the crime, which went down August 22nd, that was a lot more than 3 months ago, right? Anyway, a Florida man, 56, shot his physician close range twice in the chest for making him climax during a prostate exam. On the day of the crime, which went down August 22nd, Milo Johansson absconded the state of Florida. Fortunately, the physician he shot survived the wounds of the gunfire, and he had now recovered fully. Johansson, who in Jacksonville was a car salesman, had vanished without a trace. He is presently a fugitive, and some folks think he potentially left the United States. The doctor he fired upon notes for over 30 years he had been doing prostate exams, and guys ejaculate all the time in the midst of a prostate exam, and one's sexuality has nothing to do with it. Milo needs help, Dr. Smith elaborated. The prostate is like a male G-spot and it carries semen. It is very sensitive, so when it is touched and massaged, you get an orgasm with almost no effort. The prostate is only accessible through the anus, and that's not very comfortable for most men. I understand that Milo was shocked by what happened to him. An orgasm meant something sexual had taken place between us, and he became very aggressive, ordering me to apologize and say, "No, homie, I don't even know what that means." I think the phrase is "no homo," but I digress. Dr. Smith claimed he was trying his best to calm down Johansson and gently informed him it was a normal thing. However, he whipped out a pistol, busted 2 shots at him, and fled. Now, wait a minute. So if I'm bent over, right, and I got my pants around my ankle, where the fuck are you hiding a gun in your urologist's office? This is faker than fake. Faker than fake. He was last seen in Jacksonville that day. His 29-year-old significant other says he phoned her and remarked "hasta la vista," and that was the last time she heard from him. After that call, his number was out of service. He hated homosexuals, I know, but that shooting, I never thought he'd take it that far. So this is bait. This is bait. This is fake news. Fake news. Faker than fake. But it did. Oh, wrong camera layout. There we go. Faker than fake, but it did engage in an interesting conversation about the security of men and their sexuality and how that leads to some uncomfortable situations and ultimately the conversation about consent. Now, the reason I bring this up today is because I continuously see some of these gimmick accounts on Twitter reposting Reddit posts. And look, I'm not on Reddit. I should be. I should totally be on Reddit. The number of times I see semi-successful live streamers, especially on Rumble, get quality, interesting topics and content off of Reddit. It seems like an interesting strategy for getting Rumble content. And judging by what I'm doing today, I'm clearly not opposed to scraping the bottom of the barrel for content, but I do it in a philosophical way, and I'm also trying to do it in a way where we can address the narratives, right? We can address these public narratives being had. And so this idea that it's dangerous to make a straight man question his sexuality. Yes, and rightly so. I mean, look, I don't like perpetuating stereotypes, and I don't like perpetuating homophobia and transphobia. This story that we just read, I mean, obvious bullshit. Obviously, if that ever happened, I would never condone shooting a doctor for performing his medical duties. And like, if you're a guy that's concerned, like if you have a concern about what might happen in a doctor's office, maybe take care of yourself before you go. Maybe go ahead and let some of that out so that it's not as sensitive down there. Just a suggestion. But definitely cannot condone even a fake account of reaching down into your pants that are around your ankles and pulling out a pistol and shooting your doctor. Cannot advocate that at all. Oh. Cheers if you're still out there. This is going to be one of those shows. But let me just bring something up here. This is from men posting Fs at, I can't even say this on YouTube. I can't even say the account name on YouTube. But it's soon I will have a date, but I'm a trans lesbian. Yesterday I started messaging with a beautiful lady that I really like, and today we spoke about a first date. I haven't told her that I'm a post-op trans lesbian woman because every time I did, the reaction was simply a ghosting. But I'm afraid to see a transphobic reaction because I'm a trans woman. What would you do in my situation? Now, obviously, this isn't someone who's concerned about a straight man questioning his sexuality. This person doesn't want to tell his lesbian date that they have had surgery. Look, this is the crowd. This is the crowd. And why does it keep going back to that layout? Okay, sorry. Still learning StreamYard, folks. This is the crowd that, not necessarily this person, but these are Reddit types, right? These Reddit types are the crowd, like the people who just tried to cancel Russell Brand. This is the type of people who made big deals out of the issues with Aziz Ansari, made big deals out of the issues with Louis C.K. And don't get me wrong, Louis C.K. was pretty scummy, you know. But, you know, if you announce I'm about to whip my dick out in a space that, you know, is your space and people don't leave, that's kind of consensual. Kind of. And so that's kind of why I'm bringing this up, because we talk about the idea of enthusiastic affirmative consent, right? The far left, the super far left, they want to make the biggest deal about any sexual situation in which a straight man is getting down with a straight woman and consent isn't 100% rubber stamped, you know, practically a contract signed. You know, we have people, you know, consent must be maintained and reaffirmed whenever something new happens. And look, I get it. I get it. It's we live in a fucked up world in which people could be manipulated, and you know, it's sometimes if you're with a very aggressive partner, sometimes that aggressive partner can just move from thing to thing, and everything's happening so fast and in a flurry that you don't really know what's going on. You're just feeling the feelings and seeing the sights, and then all of a sudden when you realize what happened after the fact, you're not sure if you were okay with it all, but you didn't say anything at the time. It's messed up. It's really a messed up situation. But what's morally right? What is morally right? The idea of affirmative enthusiastic consent. What does that mean? Well, consent can mean a lot of things. However, when you have someone like the aforementioned individual who is leaving a very important detail, and you know it's important because they're hiding it. Like, if it wasn't supposed to be important, you wouldn't need to hide it. But because you're hiding it, there's a concern that this person that you're trying to date, that you're trying to obtain consent with, might reject you. And that rejection is being labeled across the internet as homophobic, transphobic, etc. But that rejection is still part of the affirmative consent process. It's part of the enthusiastic consent process. We have a lot of people on the internet who would say, "Well, no, it's not it's not the trans people's job to tell you they're trans. You just should assume that a certain number of people you meet in a certain day just have the possibility of being trans, and you just need to be okay with it and do interact with them anyway as if they are, any other person." But here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you like I would want to know if someone I'm potentially dating has had plastic surgery in any kind of way. I also would want to know if they've had any other kind of surgeries. Like, I would try to give a little bit of a warning about some of the scars I have. I think the fact that we're a species who wears clothes, right? We wear clothes. We present ourselves in a public manner that may or may not be representative of what we look like naked. And I guarantee this person, not sure what they look like naked, but some of the things I've heard about some of the surgeries that trans people get, even if everything was perfect, I would want to give my partner a heads up that some surgeries have happened before getting into bed. Anyway, so we have a comment over here. So the men posting F's posted this little comment. "I'm sorry, but you do need to tell her better now than down the line when you undress in front of her." And then, "But I already had a vaginoplasty, which is awesome, but I guess you're worried she might not like that, in which case it's better to rip the band-aid off early. As long as she isn't rude or ghost you, you should still let her know there isn't any benefit to hiding it." And, unless you're trying to be a liar. Either someone's going to accept you for who you are or they're not. Which brings us to the main part of the topic. So, what happens when you do show up and you have lied to somebody? Let's say you're out and about at the club, at a bar, at the gym. You see somebody, they got a nice tight body. Their face is a little weird, but they're still pretty. You hit them up, you exchange texts, take them out. I take them out for dinner. After dinner, you're back in your car. You're fooling around, making out. Some sexual things start to happen. You receive oral sex, maybe feel up the other person's chest. And then you think, "Oh, I kind of, I got off, like I got mine, but it's time to give this person theirs." And so you go to You go to third base, right? You go to third base and they stop you. Now you've already had your sexual pleasure. They stop you and they're like, I need to warn you, my equipment's a little different than you're used to. I could see somebody in that situation getting very upset, like violently upset, for the same reason we tell sexual assault victims to protect themselves, right? I'm not advocating violence whatsoever. Let me be clear on this. I am not advocating violence at all. Do not do this. But I'm issuing a warning out there that for the same type of people who want to be predators and not respect the consent of young women, getting them drunk, drugging them, getting violent with them, that young woman has every right to then go to the authorities and use the state monopoly on aggression to bring you to justice for the wrong you've done to her. And I honestly think that the same kind of philosophy, right? It's not legal, but the same kind of philosophy that you have violated the trust of your sexual partner applies. So what do we do? What do we do about this situation in our society where we have lots of young gay folks and trans folks who tell us they're concerned about violence against their community? But then we have posts like this on Reddit, and this is one of about 5 I've seen over the past couple of weeks with similar advocating that they shouldn't have to tell their sexual partners who they really were before. And are we still live on YouTube? Yes, we are. Okay. A little concerned that this might wind up getting taken down from YouTube. We're skirting close to the edge, folks. Because like I said, I am definitely not trying to advocate violence. I'm merely issuing the warning that if you're concerned about violence, then the most important thing you could do is obtain enthusiastic, affirmative, continuous consent. It's how do I even jump from there? Anyone still out there listening, let me know in the chat. If anyone's out there, cheers to you. Let me know how you feel about this topic. I mean, be careful on YouTube. Be careful on YouTube. But tell me what you think about this topic. Do you consider it akin to sexual assault? And let's say it's not even trans people or it's not even gay people. Let's say there's something else. I mean, definitely there was an issue. Like right now, it's no longer a crime in California, but we've had an issue with like bug chasers, right? Where people have purposefully went out and tried to like collect the most sexually transmitted diseases they can catch, and they got off on spreading them. And so now this is like no longer a crime in California to not tell your partner that you're infected with a lifelong, potentially fatal, sexually transmitted infection. But I believe it should be. I believe it should be a crime. That's, to me, that's part of the fully informed affirmative consent. Because the fully informed part. Now, we've got a fine line, right? Where does the fully informed part start? Let me know in the chat, or let me know down in the comments for you. Where does the fully informed part, like, where does that line, where do you draw that line? Right? If I lie to some chick in the bar and say I'm a doctor, like, does that matter? Does that matter? Do I need to tell them that, like, I don't make necessarily over 110,000 a year? Do I need to tell a sexual partner that? Is that part of fully informed consent? Like, if I go and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Dr. Mild." Like, is that a violation of consent? Could that be considered sexual assault? I guarantee there's a lot of women out there who would disagree with me on a lot of topics, and then would say that yes, if you're misrepresenting yourself in any way, if you're lying to somebody. I keep hearing voices. What the hell? Either my microphone and headphones are picking up. Let me check all my tabs here. I'm hearing some background noise from somewhere for something. Hang on, let me close my door. I'll be right back. This is one of those situations where things are literally so quiet in my house that I feel like I'm hearing things from down the street, like it's like right in my lap. Anybody ever had a day like that? So yeah, I'm mostly just trying to kill time before the debate, talk about important things. There are a couple of other topics I could bring up here. But yeah, let me know definitely down in the chat, in the comments, or on X if you think that fine line needs to be moved even further on what should be considered sexual assault or non-consensual sex, depending on what information is disclosed and what isn't. Now, I guess the argument could be made, well, like, what's the goal of the sex, right? Is this casual sex? Are we dating to marry? Are you a one-night stand, a hookup, a casual, short-term relationship? I think those kind of things, like some of that information doesn't matter, but definitely things like STDs, things like abnormalities in your genitalia. I think those things are important. I think those things should be disclosed, even if it's a one night stand. Now, I don't think anyone you don't plan on spending more than 3 months with, I don't think they have a right to know what you do at your job. what other communities you have, who your family members are. I don't think they have a right to that if you've known them less than 3 months or only plan on knowing them less than 3 months. Now, does that mean you should outright come up with a false, fake version of events? Well, I think there's an ethical dilemma to that because definitely once you start reaching, like, if things change and you start to reach, oh shit, this person might be a potential long term relationship level. Once you start getting there, then if you've lied to them about all of those things, then it's a lot harder to come clean and be faithful to them. So definitely tread carefully. Definitely tread carefully. But for the most part, treat casual like it's casual. Be your own person. But also know what you want going into a relationship. Like that could solve I think that could solve like 70% of the issues with consent. Is that I think a lot of people don't realize what they even want going into a sexual encounter or going into a relationship. Anyway, that's a whole other topic I could talk for hours about, and I'm not necessarily looking to do that here. Anyway, one other topic I did want to bring up: the last program, the last Milds Culture Plate, I talked a lot about marriage, and in particular, I talked about this debate between Just Pearly Things, aka Pearl Davis, and some of the Daily Wire hosts, Jeremy Boring, Matt Walsh. I think a couple of other ones chimed in. Jordan Peterson, I know, did, and I think there were a couple of others. And I've definitely seen a lot of conservative takes from a lot of conservative people over the past few days talk about, how we could never really restore our country unless we restore marriage. And I kind of appreciate that take, but it's dismissive, right? It's dismissive of the argument that marriage is inherently broken in this country. That's the argument. And just before I went live, one of the reasons I was a few minutes late, just before I went live, I was watching Andrew Branca over on the Law of Self-Defense channel. I was actually watching him on X, on Twitter, and he was reviewing an episode of the Matt Walsh show in which Matt Walsh had responded to Andrew Branca, Law of Self-Defense, about this topic of marriage and divorce, and made a lot of claims about claims that Andrew made. And Andrew kind of debunked it. I mean, it was an interesting watch. I don't necessarily agree with Andrew Branca on every topic. There are a lot of things I disagree with him about, and there are a lot of things I think I think he in some way just tries to be a blowhard to be offensive because he thinks that might grow his audience. Not sure, but hey, he's an entertaining, interesting person to watch, and definitely explains where he's getting his information or his point of view from. And I definitely like his breakdowns of shootings and things and police encounters. I think he's a very educated person, a very experienced person, not only in his field but in life. And so it was very interesting to see him take down Matt Walsh, or take down Matt Walsh's takedown of him. So yeah, if you're looking for something to watch after the debate, feel free to check that out over on the Law of Self-Defense channel here on YouTube and on X. I don't believe he goes live on Rumble, so it may be a few days before he gets that over to his Rumble channel. But One of the other things that I think might be important to talk about here, and I don't want to get too deep into this because, quite frankly, LawTube can speak for themselves. LawTube can speak for themselves. I don't like covering LawTube, but what I do like covering, as always, is false narratives. And I saw this clip going around X, and I'm curious enough that I may actually listen to this whole interview sometime in the next few days. But this was really egregious. Let's listen to what's said here. Anyone in my chat who followed the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, this person on the left is an activist journalist, jacktivist. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say because I'm speechless, because this take is literally lacking so much self-reflection. Like, could you say something that could not be a bigger argument against you? Like this is so projection. Such projection. As with so much of the media coverage around the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. So much projection. Let's hear what she had to say.
Amber, they're able to direct the general frame, the general atmosphere online, because they're priming people before the trial even begins. They're priming people to believe that he's the good guy and she's the bad guy.
Okay. So, priming people even before the trial. Well, what's the trial even about, Kat? The trial is about the fact that she went out in the media and tried to create a narrative where he was the abuser. So you could say before any of the trials, she went out and painted a narrative. She set the stakes. We have this whole pro Amber Heard side, and it's the same four arguments, right? It's the same four arguments, and we're about to hear one of these or two of these come up in this little 1 minute clip. We're about to hear two of these come up. One, something about a perfect victim, right? They always talk about, oh, Amber wasn't a perfect victim, and if you're expecting a perfect victim, like, abused people don't act in the way you expect them to, right? But here's the catch. If an abused person then abuses other people, then they're no longer a victim, they're a perpetrator. Like, that's the key. That's the line. That's where you draw the line. Like, if you're an abused person and you use that trauma to then abuse other people, you have now crossed the line from victim to perpetrator. Even if I were to believe every single thing Amber Heard has ever said about Johnny Depp, the fact that even she admits, I hit you, I start physical fights, like, that doesn't make her an imperfect victim. That makes her the perpetrator. That makes her a mutual combatant, not a victim. And so the second thing that is argued, oh, well, all the evidence didn't come in. Well, the rest of the evidence wasn't admissible in a U.S. court because it didn't meet the standards of a U.S. court. The third thing, well, she won the UK trial. Actually, no, she didn't. The son won the UK trial because they were able to dump a bunch of evidence. They were able to dump a bunch of information into the trial that Johnny Depp and his team weren't able to cross-examine, weren't able to combat, weren't able to refute in the court, weren't given the opportunity, weren't allowed to refute in the court. And the UK trial means jack shit to the US trial. But no, Amber Heard didn't win over there. Johnny Depp did lose, but he lost to the son on a very narrow set of facts that the son was operating off of the knowledge they thought had existed at the time, which may or may not have been the truth. So again, this UK stuff, the imperfect victim stuff, the evidence didn't come through, and then flat out, well, the internet said that this trial, in what she's saying now, that this trial was hyped up on the internet, and she's specifically talking about LawTube. She's specifically talking about other content creators like Popcorn Planet, like That Umbrella Guy, which, by the way, if you're out there, That Umbrella Guy, if you happen to see this message, or if anyone out there happens to chat with That Umbrella Guy, tell him Mild says hi, and what he's going through with his family is not, it's rough, man. It's not for the weak-hearted, man. What he's going through, I mean, it sounds like he's coming at it from a position of strength, and he might pull through the issues that's going on with his family. But definitely, man, a father shouldn't have to fight for his kids, like, against crazy allegations and you know, people trying to weaponize haters online, you know, against a father in his custody battle with his kids, man. Anyway, cheers to Tug, man. But anyway, so let's listen to what this bitch has to say. And of course, as soon as I
that's what we're going to see. And so even when you had, for example, there were many legal commentators who covered this, and a lot of people were like, oh, I watched the trial every day. I watched it on YouTube as people were providing their legal commentary. And if you actually watch that commentary, they're doing it with this bias. They're doing it with
okay, bullshit. I mean, I think by the time the trial had started up, a lot of information had come out, like the audio tapes. And so there were definitely a lot of people commenting that Johnny Depp may have been victimized and this and that. And if the evidence is allowed, then, you know, Johnny may have a shot to argue that he was actually the victim. But most of the commentators I saw, you know, were like, well, these are pretty serious allegations. I want to wait. I want to go into this fresh. I want to go into this not having an opinion. And they examined each testimony and each piece of evidence on the strength that it was provided within the courtroom as if they were a jury member. Hell, you had teams of lawyers on YouTube that were teaming up scrounging together money, going to Virginia, standing outside of that courthouse, waiting in line, trying to get that little number so they could go in and watch the jury for themselves and understand how the jury is absorbing each piece of factual evidence and which lawyers and which testimony they're paying more attention to and why. If you have a predetermined opinion, if you have a predetermined agenda that, well, we're going to get Johnny Depp off. Johnny Depp shouldn't have to face this this injustice, and we're going to get him off. Like, you wouldn't care. You wouldn't care about the jury and what they're listening to in the courtroom. You'd be trying to get the jury away and influence them. And nobody did that I'm aware of. Please don't ever do that. If you're a follower of mine, don't ever try to influence a jury. But this idea that LawTube had a predestined verdict for this trial and did everything YouTube could do to spin the trial our own way. That's not the way the legal process works. That's not the way courts work. That's not the way evidence works. And that's not the way testimony works. That's the way shitty media figures like Kat Tinbarge and shitty fucking media organizations like NBC and the Rolling Stone and Newsweek, that's the way they operate. They operate that way. The rest of us are truth seekers. We seek the truth, not fucking narratives.
This slant. Right. And they're doing it because they're making money directly from that bias.
Right, because people weren't tuning in.
You see, I'm going to call bullshit on that too. Making money off the bias. If anything, like if I was a streamer, I didn't really start this channel, my channel, until way after the Johnny Depp trial was over. I mean, at least in the format it is now. I kind of did some other videos at the very beginning anyway, Comicsgate related content a long time ago. But in its current iteration, I did not live stream like I do now until after the Johnny Depp trial was over. And let me tell you, one of the things I've learned about online content creation, there's a famous meme out there, right? There's a meme that I've seen posted every few months. And it's, if you're looking for the answer to something, don't ask the internet. Tell the internet the answer you know is wrong and wait for them to correct you. So this idea that popular YouTubers or even unpopular YouTubers, that the content creator space on YouTube and TikTok were behind Johnny Depp to eat super chat money, that like they were using their support for Johnny Depp to, if anything, like it would be the opposite. It would be, well, no, I think Amber's right here. And then you would watch the super chats come in telling you why you're fucking wrong. When everyone else is following this avalanche of Johnny Depp support, being the lone person to be like, no, I kind of think Amber's going to win here. I like her argument on this and that. And I like the way Rottenborn questioned Johnny Depp on this topic. You know, if you were going to eat super chats, that's how you do it. Anyway, we need to hurry up and finish this because The debate starts in just a few minutes. Come on. Anyway.
Into videos that supported Amber Heard were, at the least bit critical of Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
And the only reason that they would tune into those videos, as they tuned into your tweets at the time, Kat, were to...
Cheers to D&O Mentors in the chat. Sorry I didn't see that earlier. He says Jefferson Davis was not even put on trial for insurrection. Yep, true.
To then get in your messages and DMs and comments to abuse you in the way that they were abusing Amber Heard.
Yeah.
Like, they really only wanted to...
Amber, they're able to...
Nobody wants to abuse you, Cat 10 Barge. We just want you to shut the fuck up and go away. Or just go talk about something else, because here we are a year and a half out from Johnny Depp, almost. There's little to fucking talk about anymore. I guess there was the whole sidebar videos that recently came out, but which I need to actually watch those. I didn't watch any of those sidebar videos. It'd be quite interesting content. Maybe I can cover them on my channel, but they've already been covered to death by everyone else. But this is where we're at in the world. We have people like Cat 10 Barge. Obviously. Like I said, like everything I said just now, oh my God, it totally didn't occur to me. Like, if I was going to be a grifter, I would be Cat 10 Barge. Because I guarantee you right now, her engagement on social media after putting out this interview, I guarantee her engagement on social media has went through the fucking roof. I bet her next month on X, if she's not making subscriber money on X, if she's not monetized on Twitter, then holy crap. Like, she's going to be making a fucking ton of money. Uh-oh, wait a minute. I almost killed my own Rumble stream. Okay, it looks like the debate stream is starting up. Let me double check that real quick before I share it. My computer appears to have a certain amount of lag. Okay, it says 53 seconds on the Rumble stream, and yeah, it is lagging. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and mute that for you folks. And let me just take the last 30 seconds to remind you, you are watching Mild's Culture Plate. Oh my God. I may need to reboot, folks. Let me try closing a bunch of stuff down here. Maybe I have too much crap running on my computer. But yeah, you're watching Mild's Culture Plate. Oh my God, this is such horrible lag. I don't even know. Let me see. I think this may have happened last time I tried to stream the last debate. Let me see if I can get Fox Business Channel on my local cable provider. Let me see if that might help. Nope, that's not it. There we go. DNL Mentor says, yeah, mine was lagging too. I gave up streaming. Yeah, I'm not necessarily going to give up. I'm going to try to find this here. See if I can get Fox Business Channel. Bear with me, folks. I'm almost there. Okay, here we go. No, I can apparently not. Oh, here we go. Watch live. There we go. They're still in the they're still in the promo at the beginning here. So we have not missed anything yet. All right. Okay. Well, we're going to wait. We're going to wait for just another minute. This is kind of unfortunate. I wish I was on OBS. Let's see. What?
Dana Perino and Ilya Calderon, Univision.
Good evening. Thank you, Stuart.
Okay, so this is on Fox News and Univision.
America as a shining city on a hill, and tonight, 7 candidates will make the case they should be the one to lead that city into a brighter tomorrow. But first, they have to convince you, the voter. Please allow me to welcome our Spanish-speaking audience. Muy buenas noches a todos. Desde la Biblioteca Presidencial Ronald Reagan, los precandidatos republicanos también buscan su voto para las primarias del partido. Bienvenidos.
And good evening. So let's meet the candidates who have qualified and chosen to be on this stage tonight. They are positioned by the order they rank in the polls, with the highest polling candidate in the middle. Standing center stage, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Flanking the governor, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy.
Okay, we got Vivek.
South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
Next is South Carolina Senator Tim Scott and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
On the wing tonight, former Vice President Mike Pence. And North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
We have questions on a wide variety of issues important to primary voters. Candidates get 1 minute to answer and 30 seconds to respond if singled out. When their time runs out, we'll all hear this. We have a lot of ground to cover, so please keep it civilized.
Let's get going. We are in this spacious, sunny place tonight, designed to reflect the very nature and character of Ronald Reagan. It's a place that makes you proud to be an American. Yet today our nation is—
Ronald Reagan, take a shot.
Others say they dread the 2024 election and find politics exhausting. 2 in 3 Americans think the country is on the wrong track. And 3 in 4 say the economy is not in good shape.
Prices are
How's the audio?
18% since 2020. More than half of the U.S. population has little access to childcare. 85% of Americans say their personal finances are a source of stress.
Americans want to believe a leader who says, "You can follow me.
I'll bring up the
I've
audio
got
on
you.
my own
Don't worry."
phone here.
President Biden is trying to do that with Bidenomics.
And yesterday,
Bidenomics.
he joined the picket lines where auto workers are demanding
Oh,
more
UAW.
wages and job security.
You seen what the UAW
Senator
is asking
Scott,
for?
You recently reacted by praising Ronald Reagan for firing air traffic controllers in the 1980s, saying, "You strike, you're fired." Would you fire thousands of striking auto workers today, Senator?
Obviously, the President of the United States cannot fire anybody in the private sector. However, we should look back at the first bill in Congress under Joe Biden. The first bill had $86 billion for the union pensions because they continue to overpromise yet underdeliver. One of the challenges that we have in the current negotiations is that they want 4-day French work weeks, but more money. They want more benefits, working fewer hours. That is simply not going to stand. I sat in the Finance Committee hearing when a widow came before the committee who was promised pensions from the unions.
This is crazy.
$4,000 a month. Unfortunately, it had been cut to $1,000 a month. We must make sure that we honor the commitments that we make. And one of the ways that we do that, do not overpromise and then underdeliver and leave the taxpayers on the hook. I'll say this, Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border working to close our southern border because it is unsafe, wide open, and insecure, leading to the deaths of 70,000 Americans in the last 12 months because of fentanyl. It is devastating. Every county in America is now a border county because fentanyl has devastated Americans.
Like Tim Scott, come on, there'll be a time to talk about the border.
6 million illegal crossings.
There'll be a time to talk about fentanyl. We're talking about unions.
Title 42. The one thing he should do is finish the wall, reinstate Title 42, and get the job done.
Well, I can promise you that we are going to have a lot of questions on the border and immigration. But in the meantime, we do want to talk about the economy and jobs, and especially want to talk about this strike for just a moment more. Mr. Ramaswamy, you've said you really empathize with the strikers. You're standing next to Senator Scott. And do you agree with what he said, or do you think he's wrong?
I agree with some of what he said, for sure. I like the spirit of it. I'll say that I don't have a lot of patience for the union bosses. I think that's where he and I actually have a common view. I do have a lot of sympathy for the workers, however. People are going through real hardship in this country.
What's up with that hairstyle?
Growing up, my father stared down layoffs at GE under Jack Welch's tenure at the GE plant in Evendale, Ohio. My mom had to work overtime in nursing homes in Southwest Ohio to make ends meet and pay off our home loan. So I understand that hardship is not a choice.
I hate to focus on looks, but is this not a weird hair choice for tonight?
And we choose to be victorious in the United States of America. You know what? If I was giving advice to those workers, I would say go picket in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. That's really where the protest needs to be.
Why?
Disastrous economic policies that have driven up prices, that have driven up interest rates and mortgage rates. At the same time, wages remaining stagnant. What we need is to deliver economic growth in this country. Unlock American energy.
Get the Federal Reserve.
Frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy. Put people back to work by no longer paying them more money to stay at home. Stabilize the U.S. dollar itself.
He's
and
not wrong,
rescind
but
a majority of those
you think Joe's
unconstitutional
gonna
federal
do anything
regulations
about it?
that are hampering our economy. That is how we
It's
unleash
not Joe,
American
it's the bankers who
exceptionalism.
bought
And that's
off
not
our
a Democratic
country.
vision or a Republican vision. That is an American vision that we embrace economic growth, and capitalism is still the best system known to man to lift us up from poverty, and we should not apologize for it. That's what it means to be an American.
Together, the CEOs of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis make 336 times the number of number of rank-and-file workers. That's just part of a wider income inequality trend in the country. The richest 1% now controls 1/5 of all income. Vice President Pence,
Come on, you're a journalist.
last
You
week
should know
you
how to
said
talk.
you side with American workers, but you also support how these companies operate. Which is it?
Well, thank you for the question. I want to thank Univision and Fox Business for assembling such a wonderful forum. Look, I do disagree with something Tim Scott just said. Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line. I mean, look, I'm from the second leading manufacturing state in the country per capita. I was governor of the state of Indiana.
There we go.
We brought
Where's
12,000
Jesus? Talk about
factories
Jesus.
back to America during our administration. I
Come
know
on,
something
Vince.
about manufacturing. And I got to tell you, while the union bosses are talking about class warfare and talking about disparity in wages, I have to tell you, I really believe what's driving that is
Don't get me
Bidenomics
wrong.
has failed.
Nothing against religious
Wages are not
people,
keeping
but
up with
this
inflation.
dude's-
Auto workers and all American workers are feeling it, and families are struggling in this economy. And Joe Biden's Green New Deal agenda is good for Beijing and bad for Detroit. We ought to repeal the Green New Deal, get rid of the mandates and subsidies that are driving American gasoline automotive manufacturing into the graveyard. And beyond that also, as President of the United States, I'll be standing with workers all across America, and I'll be standing for the right to work of every American to join a union or not join a union.
So again, we have a lot of lip service to Democrat policies and nobody talking about the problem with the banks and the credit card and the debt. The debt.
I know America can do for anyone what she's done for me. It's why we're focusing on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting the America we all love. Growing up in a single-parent household, I wondered if the American dream would work for a kid in the inner city. I've got good news for every single child, whether you're in the inner cities of Chicago or the rural parts of Iowa. America and the dream, it is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. God bless these United States of America.
Tagline, tagline, tagline.
I think we need to look at exactly what happened. Biden showed up on that picket line, but why are those workers actually there? It's because of all of the spending that he has pushed through in the economy that's raised the inflation. So when you look at the fact that we are paying higher gas prices, higher grocery prices, $7,000 more a year for families, what we need to do is I came out with an economic plan, eliminate the gas and diesel tax so that they have more money in their pocket. Let's focus on going after middle America and cutting taxes for middle America and collapsing those brackets. Let's get rid of unfair distortions like the state and local tax that they
cut all the taxes. Well, how about all the money we're sending to Ukraine?
Paid by red states. And let's make sure we make the small business taxes permanent. They only made those temporary. They made the corporate taxes permanent. Let's focus on what it takes to get more cash in the pockets of workers. That's when we'll be able to deal with strikes like this, not sitting on a picket line like Joe Biden is.
Thank you, Governor Haley. We have other questions to get to about economy. Allow me to.
I just have to. I'm sorry.
Allow me to.
I'm sorry. I have to jump in because we're missing the point, and every other network is missing the point. The reason why people are striking in Detroit is because Joe Biden's interference with capital markets and with free markets. Jesus. The subsidies, we're subsidizing the automakers and we're subsidizing the cars and a particular kind of car, not every car. We're subsidizing electric vehicles. And when you decide that we're going to take all of your taxpayer monies, take $1 billion, subsidize a certain type of vehicle, and the batteries come from China. China controls 85% of the rare earth minerals. They're called rare earth because they're measured in parts per million. China is moving 100,000 pounds of earth in Indonesia, in Africa. They're literally destroying the planet so that they can make a battery that's in a car subsidized here. That's why they're striking, because they need 2/3 less workers to build an electric car. Joe Biden, this strike is at Joe Biden's feet.
I can't wait till the commercial break. The commercial breaks, I'm going to go off, dude.
The follow-up question to Governor Christie. The government will shut down if Congress does not reach a deal by the end of this week. Vice President Pence warns that politics of, quote, Trump's populist proteges, like Mr. Ramaswamy, are a road to ruin for the GOP. If the government shuts down, should voters blame populist Republicans?
Voters should blame everybody who's in Washington, D.C. They get sent down there to do the job, and they've been failing at doing the job for a very long time. And let's be honest about this with the voters. You know, during the Trump administration, they added $7 trillion. $7 trillion in national debt. And now the Biden administration has put another $5 trillion on and counting. They have failed, and they're in the spot they're in now because none of them are willing to tell the truth. None of them are willing to take on the difficult issues. They just want to keep kicking the can down the road.
Voters should
and the
celebrate.
inflation that Nikki spoke about is absolutely right, and it's caused by government spending. And that's why people all across this country are suffering tonight. And yet we don't get any answers because Joe Biden hides in his basement and won't answer as to why he's raising the debt the way he's done. And Donald Trump hides behind the walls of his golf clubs and won't show up here to answer questions like all the rest of us are up here to answer. He put $7 trillion on the debt. He should be in this room to answer those questions for the people you talk
disagree
about who are
with him.
suffering.
I
And
can't.
if the government-
This is
and if the
fucking
government
sad.
closes-
When
and if the
all these
government
people
closes,
just
it's
talked
the
about the
blame-
economy,
it is
and I'm
the
agreeing
blame
with Chris
of
fucking
everyone
Christie, this is
in
fucking
Washington,
wrong.
D.C.
The rest of
who has
these
failed
people
to
should
do
be
their
calling
job
out
and
the
just
debt.
plays to the grandstand.
The next question is from Governor DeSantis.
Here's how we get done in Washington. We must find a
Oh God, they're talking over each other now.
Governor DeSantis, you haven't spoken, please.
The people in Washington are shutting down the American dream with their reckless behavior. They borrowed, they printed, they spent, and now you're paying more for everything.
I wanted
They
so
are the
bad
reason
to
for
like Ron
that. They have
DeSantis,
shut
but
down
he's
our
so
national sovereignty by allowing our
prepackaged.
border to be wide open. So please spare me the crocodile tears for these people. They need to change what's going on. And where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership. And you know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight. He owes it to you to defend his record.
Did Fox
where they
News
added
hand out this
7.8
talking
trillion
point?
to the debt. That set the stage for the inflation that we have now. I can tell you this, as governor of Florida, we cut taxes, we ran surpluses, we've paid down over 25% of our state debt, and I vetoed wasteful spending when it came to my desk. And as your president, when they send me a bloating spending bill that's going to cause your prices to go up, I'm going to take out this veto pen and I'm going to send it right back to them.
Ilya, you mentioned the question. I just want to address that.
I'm going to a question that is on the minds of a lot of moms and dads and Americans, and I know that you've been thinking about it because childcare costs, they are up. They're topping $10,000 per month. Some families are spending up to half of their income on childcare, and they're having to decide, is it worth it for me to work, or does it not make sense for me financially? In 3 days, the billions of dollars in pandemic-era funding is going to end, and 70,000 daycares could close. So you had an effort to broaden eligibility for
Sounds
childcare
like they
assistance.
weren't
That
solvent
fell apart
through the
last
rest
year.
of the pandemic.
And for the moms and dads out there who are worried, what can you tell them if you weren't able to get it through the Congress? How could you do it as president?
Certainly one of the things I did as a member of Congress was to make sure that we protected the Head Start programs around the country, giving people the opportunity to pick and choose the place that they send their children. The challenges that we see today under the Biden administration is that the cost for daycare has gone over $15,000 per child. In the Build Back Broker plan, he called it the Build Back Better plan, it was going up to $29,000. The way we fix that is to make sure that we actually cut taxes and give more Americans their money back. When I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, we actually lowered a single mother's taxes by 70% on the federal level. For dual income households by 60%. Then we went a step further. We doubled the child tax and made it refundable.
Is this going to be, well, moms could just stay at home if the dad's got money?
Make the decisions how to take care of their family. The one thing we should do is let the American people keep their money. When that happens, the greatest opportunities rise from the ashes.
He's not entirely wrong.
Going to the board.
Ilya mischaracterized a part of my view. I think this artificial division is unhelpful in our party. The real divide is
lag. Let me bring this down. Yeah, my internet's. Here we go.
not in the color of your skin, but in the content of your character. And the fringe minority in the Democrat Party that has a chokehold over that party. That's the real divide. So this populist versus classical debate is artificial. We need to unite this party.
We are going to talk about immigration and the border.
Childcare. We have.
I think we're going to go on. You have to. We have all these questions. We're going to get to you.
Oh,
We're going to come back to you. There's a lot of time.
About childcare, nobody answered the question. We knew that the cliff was coming. We knew that there was going to be millions of people without it, and so guess what? We planned.
Okay.
And when we passed legislation because
we will get you some questions, but you're going to have to let us move on. We are going to the border next.
Childcare is workforce infrastructure, and I haven't been given a chance to respond.
Wow.
Said the following.
The idea of amnesty
Reagan,
for
take a
those
shot.
who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though sometime back they may have entered illegally.
2 years later, President Reagan granted amnesty to nearly 3 million immigrants, something no Democrat or Republican president has done since. Governor Christie.
Really?
As governor of a
all
non-border
the
state
Reagan
in 2010, you supported a path to citizenship. But when you ran for president in 2016, you flipped, saying immigrants should be tracked like FedEx packages. Where do you stand now on a path to citizenship for 11 million of undocumented immigrants?
Well, the problem is that since no one has done anything since we first had this discussion 13 years ago, we're not in a position to be able to do any of that anymore. What we have to do now is first treat this like the law enforcement problem it is. Our laws are being broken every day at the southern border, every day. And Joe Biden and his crew is doing nothing about enforcing that law. They are letting it go. And by the way, they announced during the presidential race they were going to let it go. And we need to have a president who acts like I did as governor.
Man.
Enforce
I need a commercial break.
First and foremost. And that means what I'll do on day one is sign an executive order to send the National Guard to partner with Customs and Border Patrol to make sure that we stop the flow of fentanyl over the border, but also to make sure that we send a much different message.
Fentanyl.
We want you here in this country to fill the 6 million vacant jobs we have, but only if you come here to follow the law and only if you come here legally. If you come here illegally, we will apprehend you and we will send you back across the border from which you came. And the fact is that until we set a law and order agenda in this country, not only now, but in the future, we won't be able to continue this. And I'll tell you this, Donald Trump failed on this as well. He said he was going to build a wall across the whole border. He built 52 miles of wall and said Mexico would pay for it.
The court shut him down.
Knew that he was only going to build 52 miles. They might have paid for the 52 miles.
Thank you, Governor.
All right, Governor Haley. Most illegal immigrants are coming from countries south of the border. You've seen the Fox News drone. It's captured this steady stream of people coming into the country on a daily basis. In fact, I believe we have a live picture of it tonight. That is happening right now, live.
Look at this.
In the last
Look
decade,
at this
the U.S.
shit.
has spent nearly $55 billion to address the root causes of migration. But crime, poverty, and corruption, they persist, and the number of migrants is only growing. Are we wasting our money?
Well, what happens is when Joe Biden waved the green flag, it told everybody to come. And now we've seen 6 million people cross the border. We've had more fentanyl that have killed Americans in the Iraq, Vietnam, or Afghanistan wars combined.
They should have done a
we
drinking
need to
game
make
with
sure
the
that
word
we are
fentanyl.
a country of laws. The second we stop being a country of laws, we give up everything this country was founded on. So we have to secure the border. The way we do that is, first of all, defund sanctuary cities. You see what's happening in Philadelphia right now. It's got to stop. We need to make sure we put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. I spent 400 miles down that border, and I'm telling you, Border Patrol agents aren't allowed to do their job.
They're all afraid of being called racist for talking about border security. So then they all have to follow it up with fentanyl.
What about the aid that federal taxpayers are paying to deal with the root causes? It's not working.
The only aid that we should be spending right now is to secure the border, the southern border, the northern border, period. We need to keep Americans safe. And right now, Americans are not safe. Only when we fix the immigration system, only when we get the border secure, should we ever look at putting any more money into this. Our money should be about keeping Americans safe. We're not doing that. Joe Biden's not doing that. And you mentioned Congress and shutting down government. I'll make it clear. We have to change the budget process in 4 years. In 40 years. Congress has only delivered a budget on time 4 times in 40 years. If they don't keep the government open, they should not get paid. No pay, no budget. That's the way we should have
Oh, come on with the commercial break. They're going to backload them. They're going to have a bunch of them right at the end, like 2 minutes.
In Latin America just last year. They signed strategic partnerships with 7 countries, including Mexico. And China's military ties to the region now include arms sales and training exercises. Are you comfortable with China deepening ties with our southern neighbors?
Of course not. And the reason why we're in this mess is because elites in DC for far too long have chosen surrender over strength when it comes to the CCP. Some people in our country got rich, our industrial base got hollowed out, and they have been able to build the second most powerful military in the entire world. We need a totally new approach to China. We are going to have real hard power in the Indo-Pacific, like Reagan, to deter their ambitions. We're going to have economic independence from China, where we're decoupling our economy, and we are going to go after the cultural power they have in this country. As governor of Florida, I banned the CCP from buying land in our state. We should do that all across these United States. We shouldn't have them in our universities.
No, they're
we shouldn't
buying
have
up the
Confucius Institutes.
national parks.
You see a country in decline, our power's in decline. China's going to surpass us this decade, and if they do that, that's going to affect every single American household. As your president, I am not going to let that happen. I'm going to reverse this country's decline. We are going to choose strength, not surrender when it comes to the CCP.
America is not a country in decline. Under Joe Biden, we are a country in retreat.
You proposed, quote, universal deportation for all undocumented immigrants and their children, even if the children are citizens of the United States. Under what legal premise will you expel U.S. citizens?
So the first thing I want to say is I agree with everything. The Republicans on the stage are on the right side of this issue. Militarize the southern border, stop funding sanctuary cities, and end foreign aid to Mexico and Central America to end the incentives to come across. But I do go a step further. You're right about that, Ilya. I favor ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal immigrants in this country. Now, the left will howl about the Constitution and the 14th Amendment. The difference between me and them is I've actually read the 14th Amendment. What it says is that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the laws and jurisdiction thereof are citizens. So nobody believes that the kid of a Mexican diplomat in this country enjoys birthright citizenship. Not a judge or legal scholar in this country will disagree with me on that. Well, if the kid of a Mexican diplomat doesn't enjoy birthright citizenship, then neither does the kid of an illegal migrant who broke the law to come here. And as the father of two sons, it is hard for me to look them in the eye.
This is an interesting legal theory.
When our own government fails to follow its own laws, that's how we really go the distance and solve this problem and restore the rule of law in the United States of America, because that is part of what it even means to be an American.
Senator Scott, you oppose ending birthright citizenship. What does Mr. Ramaswamy have wrong on that issue?
Yeah, there's no doubt the fact that when you think of the Constitution and the 14th Amendment, it was certainly written as it relates to slavery, not as it relates to illegal immigration. It's been applied to illegal immigration. So the challenge that we face is, in fact, one that has to do with whether or not the people that come here are under the jurisdiction of our laws. And frankly, if you come here illegally, you are not. Now, surviving a Supreme Court argument is something I can't tell you. But from a perspective of the Constitution, I think it's simple that clearly it was designed for slavery and not for illegal immigration. I'll go one step further, though. When we have a conversation about the things that are happening on this stage, we think about the fact that Vivek just said we were all good people. And I appreciate that, because last debate, he said we were all bought and paid for. And I thought about that for a minute. Said, I can't imagine how you could say that, knowing that you were just in business with the Chinese Communist Party and the same people that funded Hunter Biden millions of dollars was a partner of yours as well. It's not nonsense.
So look, here's what I want to respond. These are good people who are tainted by a broken system, and it's not the fault of anybody who's involved.
Some of us are tainted.
Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting. While I'm speaking.
You said
if I may finish.
You can't be on both sides.
Gentlemen, you'll have your turn.
One of the challenges
we should please focus on the issues that matter. We know we did this in China. Everybody knows that.
If I may
focus on holding Joe Biden accountable. That's what we need to be.
I actually agree with Ron DeSantis.
Everybody speaking at the same time, no one can understand your message.
So if I may, I agree with Ron DeSantis on China. When every other CEO expanded into the Chinese market, you know what I did with my first company? We opened a subsidiary in China. But you know what I did that was different than every other company?
You should have just let Ron end it.
I started my next company, Strive, right when years ago. Right when I started my next company, Strive, to compete against BlackRock. Excuse me. To compete against BlackRock, I made a commitment that we would never do business in China. And I will say something.
Vivek is stabbing himself in the head right now.
Well, if I was interrupted by by a lot of people here, and I want to be respectful because I believe these
you were
are good
respectful
people,
last debate.
but I do not believe in these. We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you
in
would.
the
Falling
honor
on his
of
own
Ronald
sword.
Reagan's library, if I may, from one admirer of Ronald Reagan to another. From one admirer of Reagan to another.
God.
You cannot
do
see
deals with
how
the
this
CCP
violates
4 years
Reagan's
ago.
11th
This isn't
commandment.
productive.
I want to hear about
debate.
Let's have a policy debate.
What's going on?
Let us have a
Doesn't
policy
actually
debate.
matter.
Happy to have
Let's have
about their records.
Let's have a policy debate. And the right answer
Mr.
is
Ramaswamy,
we
I
need
have
to
a question
declare
for Vice
independence
President
from
Pence.
China,
Thank you very
and I will
much.
see that through.
Vice President Pence, in 2017, the Trump-Pence administration canceled DACA, which put the legal status of 600,000 Dreamers in the hands of the courts. Dreamers work and they pay taxes. As president, if the Supreme Court ends DACA, would you work with Congress to reach a permanent solution for Dreamers?
Well, first, let me say I'm glad Vivek pulled out of his business deal in 2018 in China. That must have been about the time you decided to start voting in presidential elections. So we're nice to have you participating in elections. So let me speak to this issue. Number one,
Jesus.
I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy with the Mexican government. We used economic power to bring the Mexican government to the table. We built hundreds of miles of border wall. And despite what's said here today, we reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. And as president of the United States, I can do it again. And the truth is we need to fix a broken immigration system, and I'll do that as well. But first and foremost, a nation without borders is not a nation. And we have to secure the southern border of the United States of America. I know how to do it, and we will do it again. Let me say one other thing about China. Let me say one other thing about China.
Would you negotiate with Congress to give a solution to the problem that Dreamers have right now? They are on a limbo.
Well, let me tell you, I served in Congress for 12 years, although it seemed longer. But you know, something I've done different than everybody on this stage is I've actually secured reform in Congress. You know, Ron, you talk a really good game about cutting spending.
Answer the fucking question
by 30%. When I was a member of Congress in 2006, right after Hurricane Katrina, Dana, you remember it, we stood our ground. I led House conservatives. We cut $100 billion out of the federal budget. It can be done, but as I said in the last debate, I'll say again, this is no time for on-the-job training. I'm going to be ready on day one to get Congress to step up, secure the southern border of the United States, build a military fitted to our times, and we're going to get spending in Washington, D.C. under control once and for all.
Dodge.
Proposed to go to a break. How will these candidates make America safer as rising crime?
Oh God, thank God. Thank God. Oh my God. Okay, so that whole first fucking 30-minute segment, 35-minute segment. Holy shit, yo. The shit that just happened. So first off, the fact that Chris Christie was the only one who mentioned the fucking debt. Like a lot of them mentioned spending and blamed Bidenomics and this and that. But Chris Christie was the only one who mentioned the debt. And even his answer was fucking milquetoast pigeonholed bullshit, right? Like nobody's talking about the fact that we are a country controlled by the bankers. This whole economic question, the whole jobs, and oh my God, the flip-flopping. So they're talking about jobs, talking about supporting the workers, blah, blah, blah. And then who was it? Oh my God, was it? I think it was either Pence or Christie talking about immigration, talking about we need to fill all these job vacancies. No, we need economic reform so motherfuckers will just take the jobs. So Americans will take the jobs. We need the jobs here in America. Why do we need a massive flow of immigration to fill our jobs? Why do we need to legalize, permanently legal? And the fact that this whole immigration part of the debate was started with this Univision Hispanic lady starting with the the sympathetic angle, and then like once she gets the sympathetic angle, then DeSantis, Vivaswamy, and Pence, They all get the softball immigration questions by the Fox News reporter who has the video of the people crossing the border and talking about the easy stuff. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Like it's insane. It's insane. Real quick, I need to nope. One little thing I need to do real quick. Cheers. Welcome, Junk Mike. Cheers to you, brother. Thank you for stopping by the stream. And so then they all got this, I swear, they all got this Fox News talking point about, well, Trump isn't here to discuss his debt. Like 3 of them dropped that same fucking talking point. Just like all of them dropped the same talking point about fentanyl when talking about immigration. Like they're so afraid of being called a racist that they all, like, they can't just talk about securing the border and creating economic stability by securing the border. They also have to talk about, well, the drugs are flowing through, the fentanyl, the people dying. We need to, the children might get fentanyl. Oh, dear Lord. Dear Lord. Yeah, I agree with Junk Mike. Once again, in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and show his comment. Not going to talk about the bankers because they're going to get good eating if they're elected. Got to play dumb like they don't know about the money trough. Yeah, exactly. And I also agree with DNL Minters who says Pence is a traitor. I mean, it's about to come back on. Shit. But this is where we're at. Is that, and then they attack Viviswamy, and we spend all this fucking time talking about Viviswamy and his business history. Like, these are questions for reporters, not for this debate. We have to make time for 8 people to answer questions about all the issues in our economy and in our country.
In our country, with the Fox News
Crime.
and others have been covering
Crime.
it. Governor Christie, crime in major cities is striking fear into the hearts of Americans. Just last night, looters took over the streets of Philadelphia.
Look at what white people did.
You said in the last debate that you would use U.S. attorneys to prosecute crimes local prosecutors won't. But they are stretched as well, and they could not handle all of the lawlessness, the shoplifting, all the carjackings, the armed robberies. They're all surging. Progressive prosecutors were elected by their constituents, and they can't be fired by a president. So what would you do to end the revolving door of criminality?
They can't be fired by a president. They can be prosecuted by an attorney general who's appointed by the president.
Office in this country. At the U.S. Attorney's Office in New Jersey, and we set records for the number of prosecutions that we brought that still have not been broken. And the reason was that we went after the crime that was affecting people's lives. And as president, I will appoint an attorney general and instruct that attorney general that you are to put all the resources that are necessary to bring our cities back under control. The fact is, they will be stretched. There's no doubt about that, but that's what they take the job for, because they love the idea of enforcing the law. We've got to bring law and order back to this country, and not just in our cities, but we need law and order back everywhere. We need law and order back in our suburbs. People are threatened there. We need it in our rural areas. People feel threatened there. And we need it in Washington, D.C. also. And Donald Trump should be here to answer for that, but he's not. And I want to look at that camera right now and tell you, Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
All right.
Oh, God.
DeSantis, you fired a couple of the prosecutors in your state, but as governor, as president, you would not have the ability to do that.
Dad
How do
jokes,
you
man.
think about dealing with the root causes of crime, especially this revolving door of the criminals that just get out and come back and commit another crime?
Well, the crime in these cities is one of the strongest signs of the decaying of America. We can't be successful as a country if people aren't even safe to live in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco. Just being in Southern California over the last couple of days, my wife and I have met 3 people who have been mugged on the street. And that would have never happened 10 or 20 years ago. In Florida, we back the blue. We support the men and women of law enforcement. They are keeping us safe. We have a 50-year low in the crime rate. And yes, when I had 2 progressive prosecutors that weren't following the law in Florida, I removed them from their posts, and the people of Florida are safer as a result of it. As president, I will use the Justice Department to bring civil rights cases against all of those left-wing Soros-funded prosecutors. We're not going to let them get away with it anymore. We want to reverse this country's decline. We need to choose law and order over rioting and disorder.
On a related subject, Governor Haley, there's a nationwide policing shortage. Retirements are up. Recruitment is in the tank. Morale is at a record low. 3 years ago, you signed a pledge to support law enforcement. Now, pledges are a nice idea, but what's your actual plan to get more police on our streets?
Well, and I actually did it in South Carolina, too. You know, what we knew in South Carolina was you take care of those who take care of you. We have to start taking care of law enforcement, but it's not just taking care of them with words. It's making sure that you also follow through on what they do. Right now, we have a lot of stolen guns on the street. Well, these law enforcement officers, they arrest these people and then they go and they're let out the very next day. So law enforcement feels like they don't, no one has their back. We have to start prosecuting according to the law. We have to make sure we have the backs of law enforcement, and we have to make sure that we're a country of law and order. But I want to go back to China because I don't think we spent enough time on that.
You didn't answer the question.
Right now, we have to look at what government's doing to hurt us against China, too. You have a company, U.S. Antibiotics, that produces amoxicillin, the #1 antibiotic that we need. And right now, there's a company in Bristol, Tennessee, that produces that. Yet our federal government only gets it from China. We need to be focusing on companies that produce in America and supporting those companies that produce in America, not companies that are helping China.
Wow. We'll be talking foreign policy later.
Thank you, Stuart. We're going to stay in the topic of crime because it affects all of us. Governor Burgum, for the first time ever, a Univision poll found that mass shootings and gun safety are one of the most important issues for Latino voters. Mental health concerns are not unique to the United States, but gun violence is. What is your specific plan to curb gun violence?
Well, first we need to know is understand is I think that the liberal left seems to be just completely bent
Guns
on
don't commit violence, people do.
Citizens that are gun owners, because every solution they have to this is take away the Second Amendment rights of Americans, and somehow that's going to solve the problem. But all these cities that we're talking about that you showed the videos of tonight, they have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. So we know that that's not what's working. What we have to do is get back to the core issues about the family. We have to get back to behavioral health and mental health. We've got to get back to actually enforcing the laws these people talked about. And like we've done in North Dakota, where we've got the goal and we're on the track to be the most military-friendly state in the nation. We've got the most military and the most support of what we're doing in terms of law enforcement, because the morale is down because we've been defunding the police, because they've been attacked in the press. The police have become the bad guys when they're the one. There's all these jobs available in America. Why would you be a policeman?
That's why I'm here to shit on
Every time I see a policeman, the first thing I say is thank you. And so does everybody else in my family and most of the people in our state, because they know we have to respect the people that are out there defending us every single day.
Can I answer the question on mass shooting?
Lick those boots. Lick those boots.
And Border Protection, about 90% of fentanyl
Lick those cop boots
at official border crossings.
Fentanyl, take
and
a shot.
57% of the smugglers are U.S. citizens. How would you stop fentanyl brought into the country, mostly by U.S. citizens, through ports of entry?
Mostly by
There's
U.S.
two sides
citizens.
to this, and we have to be very honest about it.
Mostly by U.S.
We do have to
citizens.
seal that southern border. Building the wall is not enough. They're building cartel-financed tunnels underneath that wall. Semi-trucks can drive through them. We have to use our own military to seal the Swiss cheese of a southern border. But we also have to be honest. There's a demand-side problem in this country, too, a mental health epidemic. I met family in Iowa. 2 parents, Kathy and Derek. They lost their son, Sebastian, 17 years old. He bought Percocet on Snapchat, and then he died. Why did he die? Because it was laced with fentanyl. That is closer to bioterrorism, not a drug overdose. That is poisoning. So it is our job to make sure that never happens. Yeah. But it's also our job to make sure that 17-year-olds don't turn to Percocet via Snapchat. We have to bring back mental health care in this country, not with pumping pharmaceuticals, but with faith-based approaches that restore purpose and meaning in the next generation of Americans. Many of them are getting it through social media. And this isn't a Republican point or a Democrat point, but if you're 16 years old or under, you should not be using an addictive social media product, period. This is something that we can both agree on, and we can revive both the mental health of this country while stopping the fentanyl epidemic that will kill more people this year than who died on 9/11. And I refuse to be a passive bystander sitting in the White House like the hollowed out husk of a current president we have. We will step up and address this problem to stand for Americans and our children.
This must be the comedy section.
That is why everything he said I agree with. That is why, as Commander-in-Chief, I'm going to use the U.S. military to go after the Mexican drug cartels. They are killing our people. And the stories that I've seen in Florida, we had an infant, 18
Warhawk
months.
Ron
Parents
DeSantis
rented
wants
an
to
Airbnb.
declare war on
And
Mexico.
apparently the people that had rented it before were using drugs. The infant was crawling, the toddler was crawling on the carpet and ingested fentanyl residue and died. Are we just going to sit here and let this happen, this carnage happen in our country? I am not going to do that. So I guarantee you on day one, this border is going to be a day one issue for me as president. We're going to declare it a national emergency. Yes, we'll build the wall. We'll do remain in Mexico. But those Mexican drug cartels are going to be treated like the foreign terrorist organizations that they are.
President Pence. All right, Vice President Pence. We're going to move on to a different issue. Hold on, sir. Vice President Pence.
$5 billion.
Just last month, Vice President Pence, you said if elected, you would repeal all Obamacare mandates. However, you also made that same promise in 2016. And at that time, Trump-Pence had congressional majorities for at least the first 2 years, and you did not deliver on that promise. So Obamacare, right now, it is more popular than ever. Why should Americans trust you, if you become president, to fix that, or is Obamacare here to stay?
Well, first, let me speak to the mass shootings issue, and then I'll answer that question. It's an important one. What? Oh! Look, I'm someone that believes that justice delayed is justice denied. And as a father of three, as the grandfather of three beautiful little girls, I am sick and tired of these mass shootings.
Okay, hang on. He's talking about fucking Second Amendment bullshit. I need to interrupt him for just a fucking minute. Did you hear what he just did? We need to trust the constitutional process. We can't support Donald Trump and his crazy conspiracy theories about the election. Just fucking interrupted the process of a live presidential debate to answer the question he wasn't asked.
Behind bars in Florida. That's not justice. We have to mete out justice and send a message to these would-be killers that you are not going to live out your days behind bars. You're going to meet justice in this system.
But does that mean Obamacare is here to stay?
Oh, shit.
Well, thank you for reiterating the question, because I'd love to answer it. Look, I think it's one of the choices here. You know, my former running mate, Donald Trump, actually has a plan to start to consolidate more power in Washington, D.C., consolidate more power in the executive branch. If I'm president of the United States, it's my intention to make the federal government smaller by returning to the states those resources and programs that are rightfully theirs under the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. That means all Obamacare funding, all housing funding, all HHS funding, all of it goes back to the states. We'll shut down the federal Department of Education. We'll allow states to innovate. We're going to revive federalism in America, and states.
We're going to have more programs, and we're going to fund all the states.
May I remind everyone?
How does that make your government smaller?
We can get as many questions in as possible. This question for Governor DeSantis. Over 26 million Americans don't have insurance coverage. Governor DeSantis, 2.5 million of them are in your state. That's worse than the national average. Can Americans trust you on this?
Well, I think this is a symptom of our overall economic decline. Everything has gotten more expensive. You see insurance rates are going through the roof. People that are going to get groceries. I spoke with a woman in Iowa, and she said, you know, for the first time in my life, I'm having to take things out of my grocery cart when I get to the checkout line because the total goes up so quickly. So this is very real, and people are hurting out there. So we've got to address the underlying problem with Bidenomics, the overspending, taking all Biden's rules and regulations. I'm going to throw them in the trash can on day one. You're not going to have to worry about that. We're going to open up all of our energy. We will be energy dominant in this country. That will lower your gas prices. And what we need to do with healthcare is recognize our healthcare is putting patients at the back of the bus. We have big pharma, big insurance, and big government, and we need to tackle that and have more power for the people and the doctor-patient relationship.
Governor, why is your record in Florida on insurance worse than the national average?
Our state's a dynamic state. We've got a lot of folks that come. Of course, we've had a population
because they're like 100 years old on average.
A lot of welfare benefits in Florida. You know, we're basically say we want to. This is a field of dreams.
Have
you
seen the population?
We're not going to be like California and have massive numbers of people on government programs without work requirements.
The whole state's a retirement home,
and you got to do that. And so that goes for all the welfare benefits. And you know what that's done, Stuart? Our unemployment rate is the lowest amongst any big state. We have the highest GDP growth amongst any big state, and even CNBC, no fan of mine, ranked Florida the #1 economy in America.
We're moving on.
On the topic of healthcare, Governor Haley, healthcare is the leading cause of bankruptcy for American families, accounting for 2/3 of all personal bankruptcies. As president, how you protect Americans who get sick from financial ruin?
First of all, how can we be the best country in the world and have the most expensive health care in the world? We have an issue. My mom was in the hospital, and when she was in the hospital, they tried to bring her a couple of Tylenol, and she said, I don't need it. And they said, honey, go ahead and take it because you're paying for it anyway. Why is it that when we got the bill, the insurance company and the hospital negotiated the bill for her without her having anything to do with it? When I am president, we will break all of it, from the insurance company to the hospitals, to the doctor's offices, to the PBMs, to the pharmaceutical companies. We will make it all transparent, because when you do that, you will realize that's what the problem is. Second thing is you've got to deal with tort law. The doctors don't give you the 10 tests because they want to. It's because of the 90% chance they'll get sued. And then we need to bring competition back to healthcare, get rid of certificate of need systems, and make sure that
a lot of these doctors are fucking bought out by the big pharma anyway.
They've been in the back seat for way too long. And once we give the patient the ability to decide their health care, deciding which plan they want, that is when we will see magic happen. But we're going to have to make every part of the industry open up and show us where their warts are, because they all have them, and we need to fix this on behalf of the American people.
And that's what we did.
Do you have a better way in 30 seconds?
Well, yes, we're not talking about the real problem ever. We talk about why do we have the most expensive health care in the world? It's because the federal government got involved the same way they did with EVs, and they said, we're going to subsidize a particular kind of software back in 2008 under Obama. And they said, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to make everyone more productive. All of you that are watching have been to a doctor's office when the doctor's got his back to you and their hands on a keyboard. The only industry in the world that's ever absorbed $1 trillion of IT and became less productive, they saw less patients per day, is U.S. healthcare, because they were subsidizing a certain kind of technology. It wasn't about improving healthcare. It was about picking winners and losers. Every time the federal government's involved, whether it's higher education, healthcare, or now the auto industry, things get more expensive and less competitive.
The computer tells them which drugs to give us, right?
To move on, the future of education in America. What's the government's role in finding a way forward? The second Republican debate rolls on from Simi Valley.
Okay, so segment two. Oh my Lord, where do I begin? The question dodging. I mean, this clearly shows that none of these candidates. I'm reminded of debates past, right? Presidential debates I've watched throughout my whole life. 2000 was the first presidential election I voted in. And I've watched most presidential debates since then. And I recall, like, every presidential debate I've ever seen, like, if you want to answer a different question that was asked, you have to, like, segue. But this blatant, like, fuck the moderator, I'm just going to do what I want. And don't get me wrong, the moderators fucking suck tonight, right? Like, they suck. But to just be like, well, yeah, you got this format, but I'm just going to run right over you and we're just going to talk over each other. And again, the whole attacking Vivek Ramaswamy and taking all this time that we could be talking about policy, we could be talking about the problems of America. Instead, we're talking about Vivek Ramaswamy's history. And Pence wants to talk about gun violence and somehow ties that into crime when he's asked about healthcare. Or wait, no, what was he asked about? Anyway, I forget. Yeah, he was asked about Obamacare. And then like literally, like, what would you do about Obamacare? And then now all these candidates, Pence being the primary one, oh, I'm just going to fund it all at the state. I'm going to take the federal government and give a bunch of money to the states, and somehow that's going to shrink because there's less options under Trump's plan. We're going to provide more options and make them available at the state level because, let's see, there's no states having problems with debt right now, is there? Illinois, California. Like, do we seriously want to add to the bureaucracy, the red tape, create all of these spending bills, create all of these issues? Pence, you don't even know what you're talking about. And the old guy on the end, I can't even ever remember his fucking name. The old guy on the end. Oh, dear Lord, why am I forgetting his name? I'm having a brain fart. I've drank too much. Don't worry about that. But the old guy on the end was the only one with halfway of an answer for the healthcare. And it was, doctors are using the computer too much. Like it's, yes, the government's telling them to do it, but the government's answering to big pharma and big corporations. Like, this was the preventative medicine part of the Obamacare in action. That's what that is. And instead of attacking that, like talking about, well, yeah, their big plan for Obamacare was preventative medicine, but their idea of preventative medicine is the doctor having his back to you, typing on a keyboard, figuring out which pill to give you, because if he tells you to go lose a little bit of weight, go to the treadmill, stop smoking, well, then he's just being a hater and he's being racist and fat phobic. And you know, we can't have doctors doing that now, can we? Oh. Yes, Junk Mike Burgum. None of these people deserve to be president. I'm convinced of that. And it's sad because I just did a show a month ago where I'm like, these old men, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, like, I'm sick of old people in politics. I am so sick of old ass people in politics. I just want somebody young and with some charisma. And Vivek has some of that, but he's also so egotistical, and not in the good Donald Trump way of egotistical. He's so like, you're talking about me, so now I have to talk about me even more kind of way. It's not self-promoting. It's so defensive and it feels like you're talking to a feminist almost. Anyway, so they're coming back here. Let me bring the audio.
Education homicide. You say school choice is the answer, but South Carolina, your home state, still has not enacted universal school choice.
Oh, this is for Haley.
Current expansion
Haley gets to talk about her record on schools.
Parents can't wait 4 years for a fix. So what would you do right now?
Well, and school choice isn't the only answer, but I'll tell you, it's not out of a lack of trying that we didn't try and get school choice in South Carolina. What I'll tell you, first of all, is we have to acknowledge the fact that 67% of our 8th graders are not proficient in reading or math. Over 80% of our 8th graders aren't proficient in history or civics. And recently they came out and said our 12 and 13-year-olds are scoring at the lowest levels they've been scoring
are they
in reading and
proficient in
math
Taylor
in
Swift and the
decades. So the first thing
Kardashians?
we've got to do is we've got to make sure we catch our kids back up. We have to make sure they can read. A child that can't read by 3rd grade is 4 times less likely to graduate high school. We need to do reading remediation. We need complete transparency in the classroom. No parent should ever wonder what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. We need to make sure that we have school choice so that there's competition. We need to move all the programs from the federal government down to the states and let states decide what education looks like in their states. Right. And we need to start building things in America again. Let's put vocational classes back in our high schools, and let's get our kids building the things that we know that we can make. When we start to focus on that and really bring in that parental involvement, that's when we'll start to see a difference. But we've got to get parents back included. We've got to quit spending time on this DEI and CRT and instead focus on financial literacy, on digital literacy, and on making sure that our kids know what they need to do to have the jobs of the next generation.
On the subject of education, a question for Governor Christie.
The next generation.
Students
She
in your
doesn't say what those
state
jobs
are
are.
getting high marks on their report cards. But minorities are not doing well with math and reading. Black and Hispanic students averaging 29 points lower than white students in New Jersey. Would you address minorities first?
You have to address all students. And look, in our state, Stuart, frankly, before I was governor, that gap was close to 50%. And what we did was institute more charter schools and more Renaissance schools and more public school choice in New Jersey with innovative solutions in cities like Camden, where now we took what was the worst school districts in America.
I got to give it to Christie. He dodged the race baiting.
Increased that by nearly 40% in terms of their proficiency. It can be done when you give people choice. But let's tell the truth to everybody about what this is. This public school system is no longer run by the public. It is run by the teachers' unions in this country. Randy Weingarten and her crew are absolutely strangling. They are taking the worst of their members and defending them rather than advocating for our kids. And when you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day. They have an advocate inside the White House every day for the worst of their teachers, not for our students to be the best they can be. A President of the United States is to take on the teachers union. I did it in New Jersey, and I will do it as President of the United States.
Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you. Governor DeSantis, I have a question for you. Florida's new Black History curriculum says, quote, slaves develop skills which in some instances
funny. That was perfect. Tim Scott, perfect timing.
Slaves develop skills in spite of slavery, not because of it. But
now she's going to go to Tim Scott next after this.
Slaves. This is personal. What is your message to them?
So first of all, that's a hoax that was perpetrated by Kamala Harris. We are not going to be doing that. Second of all, that was written by descendants of slaves. These are great Black history scholars. So we need to stop playing these games. Here's the deal. Our country's education system is in decline because it's focused on indoctrination, denying parents' rights. Florida represents the revival of American education. We're ranked #1 in the nation in education by U.S. News and World Report. My wife and I, we have a 6-, 5-, and 3-year-old. This is personal to us. We didn't just talk about universal school choice. We enacted universal school choice. We didn't just talk about Parents' Bill of Rights. We enacted the Parents' Bill of Rights. We eliminated critical race theory, and we now have American civics and the Constitution in our schools in a really big way, just like President Reagan asked for in his farewell address back in 1989. Florida is showing how it's done. We're standing with parents, and our kids are benefiting.
Senator Scott, you oppose to these new standards. What is your message for Governor DeSantis?
There is not a redeeming quality in slavery. He and Kamala should have just taken the one sentence out. America has suffered because of
What?
slavery.
Wait.
But we've overcome that. We are the greatest nation on earth because we faced our demons in the mirror and made a decision. So often we think that all the issues, you talked about crime and education and healthcare, we always think that those issues go back to slavery. Here's the challenge though. Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society, where they decided to put money, where they decided to take the black father out of the household to get a check in the mail. And you can now measure that in unemployment, in crime, in devastation. If you want to restore hope, you've got to restore the family, restore capitalism, and put Americans back at work together as one American family. Our nation continues to go in the right direction.
Anyone else going to mention
It's why I
fathers
can
in this
say
debate?
I have been discriminated against, but America is not a racist country. Never, ever doubt who we are. We are the greatest country on God's green earth. And frankly, the city on the hill needs a brand new leader. And I'm asking for your vote.
I'm going to have a question for you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Over 10.7 million students in over 18,000 public schools nationwide have the ability to change their identity without parental notification. Governor Christie told Stewart last week that he would pass a federal law to protect parental rights. Would you try to do the same?
I have to be very clear about this. Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder. We have to acknowledge the truth of that for what it is. I met two young women early in this campaign.
Specifically on parental rights in schools.
Parents have the right to know. And you know what the hypocrisy of this is? Even New Hampshire failed to actually get past a piece of legislation here. The very people who say that this increases the risk of suicide are also the ones saying that parents don't have the right to know about that increased risk of suicide. And I'm sorry, it is not compassionate to affirm a kid's confusion. That is not compassion, that is cruelty. I met two young women, Chloe and Katie, early in this campaign, who are in their 20s, now regret getting double mastectomies and a hysterectomy. One of them will never have children. And the fact that we allowed that to happen in this country is barbaric. So I will ban genital mutilation or chemical castration under the age of 18, and parents have absolutely the right.
Would you try to pass a federal law that says parents should have that right?
We are going to require states absolutely have to follow that through.
Governor Burgum just to follow up on this because
states have to follow that through.
You do not have a law that says parents can't be notified, but you want to be president. Would you try to pass a federal law to say parents have that right?
Federal law.
I think this is a states issue, but I do want to say something.
It's a states
because all night
issue.
long we've been talking about issues about how it's broken in Washington.
Well, they
and
agree
I
with the
respect
10th
all of the
Amendment
people
a
on the
little
stage
bit
here
on
for
this
their
issue.
100+ years
Doug
of
Burgum.
public service. Thank you. But the reason why we're not talking about education or healthcare or safety being a problem in North Dakota is because we have a business leader. I've got more experience as a business leader than I think this whole group combined. I know I've created more jobs than everybody else on stage, thousands of high-paying jobs that have real meaning. So as a business leader, you come in and you treat the taxpayer like a customer. So in North Dakota, instead of fighting with the teachers' unions, we actually created a K-12 coordinating council. Everybody gets in the room and the customer is the student.
But you do understand that this is an issue that many people in America really are concerned about, worried about parents and notification in schools.
Yes, and that's why we have 50 platforms of innovation. That's why we have states. There are certain things the federal government is supposed to do. It's not the Department of Education that needs to be assembled. We got to move it back to states. Do what we did in North Dakota. Instead of like, oh, here's a choice school and here's an old school, the old way with the teachers union, the kids are trapped. We made every school in North Dakota an innovation school. Every school got out from under the red tape, and the things that help teach the values that we're trying to get, like 4-H, like FFA, like Boy Scouts, they can get credit for all of that stuff in North Dakota. And by the way, North Dakota is now at the top of the median SAT scores in the country right now.
Vice President Pence, the Department of Homeland Security warns that violence against LGBTQ plus people is on the rise and intensifying.
Wow.
According to a recent study,
I just
members
talked
of that
about this
community
earlier
are
on my
9
show.
times more likely to be victims of violent hate crimes. As president, how would you protect this community from violent attacks and discrimination?
Well, as President of the United States, I'll stand up for the safety and the civil liberties of every American from every background. And I want the American people to know that. But I want to answer the question as well, Dana, that you
What
just
about
asked of Burr.
the military?
Because by way of full disclosure,
Could they be
Chris,
safe?
you've mentioned the president's situation. My wife isn't a member of the teachers union, but I got to admit, I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years. And so full disclosure, look, education is a state and local function. The state of Indiana had one of the very first school choice programs in the country. And when I was governor of the state of Indiana, we doubled it.
What?
And as to your question, Dana, let's be very, very clear. When the Linn-Mar Community Schools in Iowa had a policy where you had to have a permission slip from your parents to get a Tylenol, but you could get a gender transition plan without notifying your parents, I weighed in with a foundation. That's not bad policy. That's crazy. We're going to stand up for the rights of parents, and we're going to pass a federal ban on transgender chemical or surgical surgery anywhere in the country. We've got to protect our kids from this radical gender ideology agenda, and we've got to empower parents at the state level with the ability to choose where their kids go to school, whether it's public, private, parochial, or homeschool. You empower parents, and our schools will straighten up and reflect our values and focus on the basics faster than you could possibly imagine.
Next subject.
Can I just say one thing?
China is investing. If you talk over everybody, we lose time. China is investing heavily in their tech companies. $280 billion every year on semiconductor research and development. That is one CHIPS Act per year. Governor DeSantis, you say companies like Google and Meta have too much power. Doesn't going after them give China an edge?
No, I think you look at how our societies develop, they have huge amount of power over our society. They've cracked down on free speech. We're not saying you don't want them to do business, but you want it to be a free market. And right now they're monopolies. But this issue of China, I think, is really going to be fundamental. We have subcontracted out so much of our national needs to the CCP. We rely on them for a whole host of issues. We need to reshore and we need to decouple all those important industries. We need to get that back in the United States. They are our top geopolitical adversary by a country mile. Xi Jinping's got huge ambitions, not only in the Asia Pacific, but as you mentioned earlier, in our region. But ultimately, we've got to beat them on the economy. And so that's what we'll do as president of the United States.
Governor Christie, I wanted to follow up on this because 22% of American workers fear their jobs will be lost to a robot. And you said in the past that the free market is the way to go. Would you retrain workers who lose a job to artificial intelligence, and to do what?
Well, look, what I think artificial intelligence offers us is an extraordinary opportunity to expand well beyond the productivity that we have now, and to have Americans be able to be involved in that revolution, Dana. You know, each time we have shown incredible innovation and progress in this country. What we've done with it is to expand all kinds of new, even unthought of opportunities for folks. Yes, we have to do retraining for folks who lose some of their jobs, and we should be doing that. And we should have more training available both at the county college level and the local level for people to be able to access it. So yes, I would be in favor of that. But this is a much bigger issue than that. We can't be afraid of innovation. America has been the great innovator of this world over the last 250 years, a technological innovator, a manufacturing innovator, and a freedom and governmental innovator. And that's why America has to continue to stand strong in the world, pro-innovation, pro-progress. And I will tell you this, as President of the United States, what I will do is to make sure that every innovator in this country gets the government the hell off its back and out of its pocket so that it can innovate and bring great new inventions to our country that will make everybody's lives better.
Get them off our back too.
TikTok is banned on government-issued devices because of its ties to the Chinese government. Yet you joined TikTok after dinner with boxer and influencer Jake Paul. Should the commander-in-chief be so easily persuaded by an influencer?
So the answer is I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are. So when I get into office, I've been very clear. Kids under the age of 16 should not be using addictive social media. We're only going to ever get to declaring independence from China, which I favor, if we actually win. So while the Democrats are running rampant, reaching the next generation 3-1, there's exactly one person in the Republican Party which talks a big game about reaching young people, and that's me. And let me level with all of you. I'm the new guy here, and so I know I have to earn your trust. What do you see? You see a young man who's in a bit of a hurry, maybe a little ambitious, bit of a know-it-all, it seems at times. I'm here to tell you, no, I don't know it all. I will listen. I will have the best people, the best and brightest in this country, whatever age they are, advising me. We will be probably many of the people on this stage included. That's how I built my companies. I want to be challenged. I want people who disagree with me. That's what makes America great, because we're not a perfect nation. We're founded on the pursuit of perfection. That is what makes America great. And that is why we will end it once we win this election.
I have to jump. I have to jump in here. I'm sorry.
Was speaking.
There's one person on this.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got,
I begged them to talk about the WEF and BlackRock, and they're talking about fucking
TikTok situation. What they're doing is these 150 million people are on TikTok. That means they can get your contacts, they can get your financial information, they can get your emails, they can get text messages, they can get all of these things.
This is very important for our party.
Exactly what they're doing.
This is very important for our party, and I'm going to say
you've gone and you've helped China make medicines in China, not America. You're now wanting kids to go and get on the social media that's dangerous for all of us. You went and you were in business with the Chinese that gave $105 million. We can't trust you. We can't trust you. We can't have TikTok in our kids' lives.
This is very important.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 15
God, you sound like a boomer lady.
You have 15 seconds.
Let's ban Dungeons and Dragons, because
I think we would be better served as a Republican Party if we're not sitting here hurling personal insults and actually having a legitimate debate about policy, following Reagan's 11th Commandment in his honor. And the answer is that is what actually makes our country strong. And I believe in these people. These are good people on the stage. They disagree, but let's have a legitimate disagreement. That's what I would say.
Stuart, can we get back to the question?
No, we cannot. Governor DeSantis, I'm going straight.
On this stage,
sir, we will have to cut your mic, and I don't want to do that. I don't. So, Governor DeSantis, let me go to you. Experts say President Putin has ordered assassinations across Europe, cheated on arms control treaties with the U.S., and seeks to work with China to force our decline. President Reagan believed that if you want to prevent a war, you better be prepared to fight one. Today, the Republican Party is at odds over aid to Ukraine. The price tag so far is $76 billion. But is it in our best interest to degrade Russia's military for less than 5% of what we pay annually on defense, especially when there are no U.S. soldiers in the fight?
It's in our interest to end this war, and that's what I will do as president. We are not going to have a blank check. We will not have U.S. troops, and we're going to make the Europeans do what they need to do. But they've sent money to pay bureaucrats' pensions and salaries and funding small businesses halfway around the world. Meanwhile, our own country is being invaded. We don't even have control of our own territory. We have got to defend the American people before we even worry about all these other things. And I watch these guys in Washington, D.C., and they don't care about the American people. They don't care about the fentanyl deaths.
We're going to mention
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
They don't care about the communities being overrun because of this border. They don't care about the Mexican drug cartels. So as Commander-in-Chief, I will defend this country's sovereignty.
But it's not a territorial dispute. It's never been a territorial dispute.
And 90% of the resources that we send over to Ukraine is guaranteed as a loan. It is not 90% of the money that we send over there is loan. Well, we can talk about this, but at the end of the day, 90% of the money that we send over there is actually in the form of a loan. It's not actually not be paid by Ukraine. It's paid by the NATO, our NATO allies.
So I think it's a good topic.
I think it's a really good topic too. But I will say, let's debate the fact that our national vital interest is in degrading the Russian military. By degrading the Russian military, we actually keep our homeland safer, we keep our troops at home, and we all understand Article 5 of NATO.
We have to level with the American people.
I thought you said something about waiting until your turn to talk. So hold on. So at the end of the day, I'm going to finish my. I'll be happy to
go ahead and then I'll respond.
I'll look forward to this one right now. So at the end of the day, when you think about the fact, if you want to keep American troops at home, attack on NATO territory would bring us and our troops in. By degrading the Russian military, we reduce, if not eliminate, an attack on NATO territory.
Finish that exchange. We have to level with the American people. We have to level with the American people on this issue. The reality is just because Putin's an evil dictator does not mean that Ukraine is good. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties.
A win
that has
for
actually,
Russia is a
that
win
is not
for
true.
China.
We're driving
a win
Russia.
For Russia is a win for
Excuse
China.
me.
But I forgot you like China. That's why
you'll have the chance in just a moment. The hurling personal insults isn't helping. China is the real enemy, and we're driving Russia further into China's arms. We need a reasonable peace plan to end this, especially this is a country whose
but what's your peace
just
plan?
last week
Vivek,
was
if
hailing
you let Putin have Ukraine, that's a green light to China to take Taiwan.
We mentioned the Canadian Nazis.
Strength.
We need a reasonable plan to peace.
Governor Christie.
The Communist Party of China is the real enemy.
Governor Christie. Governor Christie. President Biden's first 2 years have brought China, Russia, and Iran closer together. Are we focused too much on Ukraine and not enough on this threat from the New World Order?
No, they're all connected, Stuart. They're all connected.
New World Order.
The Chinese are paying for the Russian war in Ukraine. The Iranians are supplying more sophisticated weapons, and so are the North Koreans now as well, with the encouragement of the Chinese. The naivete on this stage from some of these folks is extraordinary. Look, I understand people want to go and talk to Putin.
You want a world war? You want a world
George
war?
W. Bush.
You want a world fucking
So did
war,
Barack
you
Obama.
fucking dumbass?
So did Donald
You
Trump.
think you're going to stop
And so
North
did Joe
Korea
Biden
from
when he
helping
said a
fund
small invasion
Russians?
wouldn't be
You
so
think you're
bad.
going to stop China from
Every
funding
one of
Russians,
them
you
has
fat
been
fuck?
wrong. And the fact of the matter is, we need to say right now that the Chinese-Russian alliance is something we have to fight against, and we are not going to solve
What are you
it
gonna
by
do?
going over and cuddling up to
What are you
Vladimir
gonna
Putin. Look, Donald Trump said
How are you
Vladimir
gonna stop
Putin
it?
was brilliant and a great leader. This is the person who is murdering people in his own country, and now not having enough blood, he's now going to Ukraine to murder innocent civilians and
What the
kidnap
fuck are you gonna do
20,000
about it?
children. And let me tell you, if you think that's where it's going to stop, if we give him any of Ukraine, next will be Poland. This is a guy who said, once said, this is a guy in 1991 who said that was the darkest moment in world history when the Soviet Union fell. Listen, everybody, he wants to put the old band back together, and only America can stop it. And when I'm president, we will.
Governor Burgum, I want to get to Governor Burgum. He hasn't had a chance. I have a question I think you're going to really like, or at least you have experience in it. And we need to talk about America's farmers because there is a foreign policy connection here. The U.S. and China are in this fierce economic competition. It's hurting American businesses, and there is blowback against American farmers because China then targets them in retaliation. How would you, as president, protect American farmers and ranchers from that kind of retaliation from a foreign government like China?
Well, first of all, we've got the best farmers and ranchers in the world right here in America. If they have a level playing field, they can outcompete anyone in the world. But this is part of the larger issue that we're talking about here, which is we're in a Cold War with China. The Biden administration won't admit that. But we're also in a economic war through what we're doing with agriculture and energy. And we're also in a war with them relative to cyberwar. We get attacked every day in North Dakota, every state, every school district, our tribes, all being attacked every day by either China, Russia, Iran, or North Korea. And now we've got a Biden administration whose whole policy is appeasement. They're out there, creating the world, making it less safe. $6 billion they traded for 5 people. They've just now set a price on anyone's head who's a tourist from America, who's a student from America, for kidnapping. If you want more kidnapping, put a price on it. And they're also helping Iran get to have more closer to nuclear weapon, which pushes all of the Middle East closer to China and Russia. The whole thing is absurd. And then, of course, we're going to give Ukraine to Russia, and then we're going to give Taiwan to China and think that's a foreign policy. That will make our nation less less successful, make us more
Who
poor.
here
And at the
said
core of all that is
anything
energy
about giving
policy, because
Ukraine
China
to
imports
Russia
10 million barrels of
and
oil a
Taiwan
day.
to
They're the
China?
largest importer in the world, and we've had 4 cabinet members from the Biden administration there this summer, and none of them talked about U.S. energy. The first one to go to each of those countries was Kerry to talk about the folly of the climate policy, which is making the world less stable. It's empowering dictators. It's not about climate change that we need worried about. It's about the Biden climate policies that are actually the existential threat to America's future.
Thank you.
Can I speak about
Governor Haley, Mexico's president called who supports sending U.S. military, quote, scoundrels. Mexico is the United States' most important trade partner and border security. You say you will send special operations to attack the cartels in Mexico. So this means boots on the ground, drone strikes?
It means special operations. It's how we deal with our terrorists. And what you need to do is understand that Mexico's not being a good partner if we lost 75,000 Americans last year. Mexico's not being a good partner if they're letting the cartels get away with what they're getting away with. What we will do is we will make sure that we send in our special operations, and we will take out the cartels, we'll take out their operations, we'll take out anything that's doing it. But we're going to go after China, because China is the one sending the fentanyl in the first place. And we will end all normal trade relations until China stops sending fentanyl. And then we'll do the special operations, and we'll get it from both sides. This is where President Trump went wrong. He focused on trade with China. He didn't focus on the fact that they were buying up our farmland. He didn't focus on the fact that they were killing Americans. He didn't focus on the fact that they were stealing $600 billion in intellectual property. He didn't focus on the fact that they put a spy base off our shores in Cuba. They didn't focus enough on the fact that all of our law enforcement drones in America are Chinese, and we've got all these little surveillance cells. We need to start focusing on what keeps Americans safe. That hasn't happened in a long time. As your president, I will make sure every American is safe, and we'll do whatever it takes to make
no
that
liberty,
happen.
only safety. No liberty.
You're all auditioning for the job as president of the United States. You want to earn these votes. But the world's problems land in the Oval Office. During the presidential debates in the year 2000, neither Al Gore nor George W. Bush was asked about al-Qaeda. Yet, just 1 year later, al-Qaeda's attack on September 11th claimed nearly 3,000 lives. And the farther we get from September 11th, the closer we are to September 10th. Senator Scott, you have no executive branch experience. What has prepared you to protect the nation from a major man-made national security crisis?
One of the things I've had the good fortune of doing is serving on committees in the United States Senate, like the Senate Armed Services Committee. I'm on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, also on the Finance Committee and the Banking Committee. Talk about addressing the issue of fentanyl. I've written the legislation, passed it through the Banking Committee and the Senate that would freeze the assets and sanction the accounts of the Mexican cartels. There are weapons that we have within the arsenal that I was able to get past 23-0 in the polarizing Senate as it is. I've also understood without question the fact that if you look at the details before 9/11, there was information and intelligence that was available that suggested an attack was coming. Having the right intelligence partners with us is key to making sure that we prevent the next 9/11 from ever happening. Having that experience for the last 10 years is really important in getting the job done.
There's 30 seconds to you, Mr. Pence.
Well, I think you asked a question about executive experience. I think it's vitally important.
Stop another 9/11, taking your shoes off.
And I stand before you today as a candidate for president because I think this country's in a lot of trouble. And you hear the fire.
The more I watch this,
tonight,
the more I really realize how much trouble our country's in.
Because Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. This is a time for those of us that have the experience, the tested experience, and a commitment to the conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan brought forward in this party of a strong national defense, standing with our allies, standing up to our enemies, supporting limited government and traditional values, need to step forward.
Understood.
Because frankly, our party does face a time for choosing, as I said at the top of this debate, whether we're going to stand on the foundation of that conservative agenda that Ronald Reagan poured, or whether we're going to follow the siren song of populism unmoored to conservative
now
principles.
it is a
I'm
time
the most
for-
experienced, most qualified,
He
and most
literally didn't
consistent
say a damn
conservative
thing.
in this field, and I'm ready to lead America at home and abroad on day
a
one.
time for choosing to go to a break. Ilya.
We need to go to a commercial break. Reagan built
Oh,
a
God.
coalition that
Okay.
lasted decades. Can any of these candidates do the same?
Okay, so I don't know. For some reason, I thought the debate would be over by now, so I'm like really pissed. I should be fucking eating dinner right now. So let me just say, another 30 minutes of this is going to drive me fucking nuts, but I'm in it for the long haul. I'm in it for you folks out there in the audience. Thank you for showing up. If you could take just a second, click that thumbs up button. I would totally fucking love you forever. Please. Growing this channel is going to be like the best thing in my fucking life this week. So again, thank you all for stopping by. Now, to criticize the shit that I just saw, again, I kept talking over him because I'm flabbergasted. You know, we're talking about the economy. We don't talk about BlackRock. We're talking about healthcare. We don't talk about big pharma. We're talking about international diplomacy, and we don't talk about fucking diplomacy. Like, almost all of these candidates, except for Vivek Ramaswamy, want to put boots on the ground over there. In this absurd notion that we can't talk to Putin because somehow that would be just giving him all of Ukraine. By doing any negotiation at all would just be giving him all of Ukraine and giving China all of Taiwan. This crazy fucking bullshit. Then it's all one way or all another. And these fucking moderators calling China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia the New World Order. Like, wow, you used that term to refer to essentially the axis of evil. You called them the New World Order. And yet, again, nobody's talked about the World Economic Forum, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, BlackRock, Pfizer. Nobody's talking about any of these things. But yet, we're supposed to boogeyman North Korea, China, Iran, and Russia. We're supposed to cower in fear because you mentioned 4 countries and called them the New World Order. OMG, folks, I cannot believe what the hell I'm hearing. Like, this country is in serious debt. And like some of the candidates said, we can't even secure our own border. And yet we're just going to continue to hand over billions of dollars for Ukraine to allegedly try to secure theirs from a superpower that I'm not saying don't try. I'm not saying don't stand up for values. I'm not saying I support the Russians. But even a madman dictator, if you believe that's what Putin is, a madman dictator, even a madman dictator has lines he won't cross. I know it's hard to believe because crazy people are crazy and what they do isn't rational. I get it. But you have to start diplomacy somewhere. If all of Europe just bands together, we're going to somehow scare Russia enough not to fucking get us into a world war. Excuse me. And they're about to come back. But you can't trust these war hawks. You just can't. And Ron DeSantis, I hate to say it, Ron DeSantis was among them. Anyway, they're coming back here.
We're here in California, where gas is nearing $6 a gallon. Oil is close to $100 a barrel again. You say, drill, baby, drill. But the courts won't let you. Mr. Ramaswamy, how would you bring down prices without immediate drilling?
Well, look, I think that we do have to run through the courts and get through that administrative state to make sure we're using the natural resources here at home. But here's the other thing that we can do that's easy.
Forever, Mr. Ramaswamy.
And it addresses the national debt as well as brings down prices. Put people back to work. We are using taxpayer money to pay people more to stay at home than to go to work. That is wrong. That contributes to our supply chain crisis. It contributes to inflation. That's the easiest way to unlock this economy. And here's the other thing. We have to put the Federal Reserve back in its place. This is an agency that has gone rogue. So in January 2026, when I have the opportunity as their next commander-in-chief, we will have a new chairman of the Federal Reserve who places priority on dollar stability. And then most importantly, send packing 75% of the administrative state. Reduce the federal employee headcount by 75%.
Audit the Federal
Rescind
Reserve.
50%
No,
of
just put your puppet in
unconstitutional
there.
federal regulations
No.
that are shackling businesses, both large and small. I've offered a very clear, practical plan to do it. That's how we unleash the economy. That's how we revive the integrity of a three-branch constitutional republic rather than this technocracy and aristocracy in the administrative state.
Response, please.
I think one of the signature accomplishments of our administration was in just a few short years, we achieved energy independence. We became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 75 years. But on day one, Joe Biden declared a war on energy, which was no surprise because when Joe Biden ran for president, he said he was going to end fossil
Get to the fucking
fuels.
point.
And they've been working overtime to do that ever since.
It's so long.
If I'm president of the United
doesn't
States,
say anything.
we're going to open up federal lands. We're going to unleash American energy. We're going to have an all of the above energy strategy. And I have a plan that actually would not only reclaim energy independence, but in 2006, America lost our position as the leading energy producer on earth. I believe in the next 10 years, with the right policies and experienced leadership in the White House, we can reclaim our role as the leading energy producer on earth, and that'll grow the American economy for generations to come.
Governor Haley, reaction to that,
As the
please.
only person who's leading an energy state, could I answer the energy question?
No, Governor Haley.
So, the first thing I'll say is what I saw at the United Nations is energy security is national security. We need a president that understands we have to partner with our producers and make sure that we have their backs. What you don't need is a president who is against energy independence. Ron DeSantis is against fracking. He's against drilling. He's been against, you did it. He always talks about what happens on day one. You better watch out because what happens on day two is when you're in trouble. Day two in Florida, you banned fracking, you banned offshore drilling, you did it on federal lands, and you took green subsidies that you didn't have to take.
Governor DeSantis, you were mentioned. You have the right to respond. 30 seconds.
I just did a plan out in West Texas for American energy dominance. We're going to choose Midland over Moscow.
They're
evil
evil
choose the
because they
Marcellus
come
over the Mullahs, and we're going to choose
with
Bakken over
regulation and
Beijing.
bullshit.
And we are going to lower your gas prices. We are going to get that job done because it's important for our national security. It's important for jobs. And that's one of the best ways to drive down inflation.
Governor DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, this question is for you.
Our voters enacted a constitutional
amendment. You banned it before they voted.
No, it's not true.
You banned it before they voted, and not only that, they didn't vote on fracking.
Totally wrong. They voted
again.
That's what we
again,
did. Onshore, we do it in Florida. We don't have as much as maybe
West Texas. It takes away from the debate.
We do it,
Nikki Haley, you suck.
That's just wrong. And let's just get real here. My plan will get the job done. We are going to be energy dominant, and that's what's going to happen.
And the voters didn't
shut up, Nikki.
We are moving on with this question for Governor DeSantis. Governor, excuse me, we cannot talk over each other. We must respect each other's time. My apologies for that.
I'm ready, Stuart.
Governor DeSantis, this is your question. The Biden administration is held on student loan forgiveness, but you say colleges should be on the hook when graduates cannot pay their debt. How does that address the cost of college? The cost of college itself?
Because the colleges are going to have to make a decision. Do we expand the gender studies department, knowing some of those graduates may not have great learning opportunities? No, they're going to focus on the things that really matter. They're going to make different choices. They're going to try to graduate people in 4 years. I also just want to come back to something Dana asked last segment about 9/11, because I was just at the 9/11 memorial with the families, my wife and I were invited. It's very touching to be there, and it affected my life because I ended up joining the military as a result of that. I've been a blue-collar kid, minimum wage in Dunedin,
Changing
Florida.
the topic in the middle of the topic. When Doug Burgum didn't even get to answer the question
more
he
conservative
wanted to.
than when I went in, and that is not easy to do. Had a lot of opportunities to make money, but I wanted to serve, and I'll never forget coming back on the plane from Iraq, landing in Coronado, California,
Nobody
North
cares.
Island, and feeling that breeze off
Nobody
the Pacific Ocean. Say, you
cares
know what?
about
I
you
am
stroking
lucky
your
to have
own
been
cock.
born an American, and I think being able to serve, and I'll be the first president elected since 1988 who's actually served overseas in a war. I think that's going to help me as commander-in-chief to know how you see these issues and understand that there are real lives at stake for people that wear the uniform.
And we know that Governor Haley's husband is serving right now as well, and we thank him for that. Senator Scott, the national debt has nearly doubled in your time in office. The approval rate for Congress is at a mere 19%.
They're not going to call on him at all.
If this were a business, you'd probably all be fired in Washington, but you're here tonight looking for a promotion. In 2013, Governor Haley hired you for the Senate. I'd like you to tell her why you should be promoted to CEO of the nation instead of her.
Certainly. One of the things I'd say is if you look at our national debt of $33 trillion, I would love to have an opportunity to have this country pass a balanced budget amendment. That would constrain the spending in Washington.
We all want that. That's not going to happen.
Every state in our nation, number one. Number two, if you want to actually reduce our national debt, you have to grow our economy. In order to grow our economy, you need to create about 10 million jobs to grow our economy at 5%. You can do that in three specific sectors. Number one, the energy sector. We could create between 3 and 3.5 million jobs if we unleashed all of our energy resources. America is we're the richest country if you combine coal, gas, and oil. Why not unleash all of our resources? Number two, we've lost 100,000 factories. 100,000 factories in the last 25 years. If we
this guy gets the blowhard, Burgum doesn't get to answer the question.
Back to America in a similar fashion that we did when I wrote the tax cuts.
Okay, we got it. Energy.
We actually lowered the corporate tax from 35% to 21%, reshored or repatriated $1.7 trillion. We brought the unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians to the lowest level in the history of the country.
Are those the three areas you're talking about?
Low for women.
Governor Haley, would you think you would deserve the promotion over him?
Look, I appreciate Tim. We've known each other a long time, but he's been there 12 years and he hasn't done any of that. He hasn't. They've only given 4 budgets on time in 40 years. He was part of that.
Oh God! The same old talking point. Jesus.
He has made sure that the borders are open and they haven't done anything. Look at everything
South Carolina.
12 years. Where have you been? Where
I voted no on all.
Tim?
I voted on most of the things.
We've waited
I have voted
and nothing has happened.
Here's what you've done.
Here's the thing that I just find interesting.
Ron, let me finish.
All these guys have said
here's the fact,
and I appreciate a lot of the things they're saying.
Nikki
I'm
Haley,
the only one up here who's gotten in the big fights and has delivered big victories for the people of Florida.
Oh shit!
And that's what it's all about.
Oh shit!
You can always talk, but when it gets hot in there, when
See,
they're shooting arrows
now
at
if I was Doug,
you
I'd jump right in right now.
Parents' rights, keep the state
They probably
free.
have
You're
his
gonna be
mic
able
cut
to
off.
do all those things, and in the state of Florida, because of our success, the Democratic Party lies in ruins. We have won the big fights. We have turned our state into a Republican state. People respond to leadership. I've done it while others have talked about it.
CEO, we actually have a CEO in the White House, which is what I think we need. If I may just briefly interject here, we need a zero-based budgeting. That's the way businesses are actually run. Start with zero as the baseline for the budget, and then see what's actually necessary.
Get in on this.
There isn't a blue state or a red state in this union that does it. The federal government doesn't do it, but successful companies, including the ones that I've built as a CEO, will do it. And I think we need a CEO.
Yes, yes. Governor Burgum runs a state that way. Yes, go ahead.
You didn't ask the only guy that's been attacked. You have energy questions. You don't ask anything. But I'm just going to say right now, when you say nobody else has done it, The energy plans that have all been announced in the last month by these other folks on stage, we're already doing it in North Dakota. The border plans
There
are
we
already talking about.
go.
We've got troops down at the border flying helicopter missions from North Dakota, from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop transnational criminal organizations from inflicting the invasion and the mass casualties in our state. And on the energy policy, we're already doing it. And it's not saying when nobody else done the big fights, North Dakota was leading the charge.
Yeah.
We won the battle to get the
Fuck
Biden
yeah,
administration
Doug
was ignoring
Burgum.
the law. They were
Doug
the first
Burgum just
administration since
won
Truman
this
that
fucking
wasn't
debate,
holding
in my
the quarterly
opinion.
required lease sales, and we won that in federal court. WOTUS, we won that in federal court. We're fighting the Biden administration on 20 fronts. To say that nobody's fighting the big fights, just look at the record of what we're doing right now. Energy, economy, national security, I've been talking about it since day one, and now finally good, we're having the conversation about it, but we've got the answer in North Dakota.
Governor Burgum, let's talk big government.
Yes.
This question's for you. Big government keeps getting bigger. 1/5 of all new jobs this year have been created by the government. Governor Burgum, you say you want to shrink the size of government, but it has been a century since any president has done that. Why would you be any different?
Well, because we've done it in North Dakota. When I took office, we shrunk the state budget general fund by 27% in the first 4 months I was office, and all the trains still running on time. Why? Because you had a business leader that was actually there. Inside of every government
dig more
job,
into his
there's
policies.
10 or 20% of mind-numbing, soul-sucking work that even the state and federal employees don't want to do, and you can engineer that work out of the job. That would free up right there 20% of 2 million civilian employees. And by the way, we've got 10 million jobs open. They'd have plenty to do, and they could be generating taxes instead of being paid by taxes. This is totally possible to do it if you have somebody that understands, because having worked in technology for 30 years, everything we had to do was to be better, faster, and cheaper the next day. That's what we can do in government. That's
I'm
what
not
we're doing
saying
in
he's
North
got
Dakota.
my vote
All
yet.
right.
But
Governor DeSantis.
He's saying the right things there, at least.
I want to ask you about something that I think is on a lot of Republicans' minds. This election could come down to less than 50,000 votes in 3 states. Abortion was on the ballot in 6 states in 2022. Republicans lost all of them. Next year, abortion will likely be on the ballot in Arizona. That is a must-win state. Governor DeSantis, how are you going to win over independent, pro-choice voters in Arizona?
Same way we did in Florida. We won the greatest Republican victory in a governor's race in the history of the state, over 1.5 million votes. We were winning places like Miami-Dade County, Palm Beach, that nobody thought was possible because we were leading with purpose and conviction. I reject this idea that pro-lifers are to blame for midterm defeats. I think there's other reasons for that. The former president, he's missing in action tonight. He's had a lot to say about that. He should be here explaining his comments to try to say that pro-life protections are somehow a terrible thing. I want him to look into the eyes and tell people who've been fighting this fight for a long time. My wife and I earlier today were at the gravesite of President and Mrs. Reagan, and I noticed that there was a quote where it says, every single person has purpose and worth. We're better off when everybody counts. And I think we should stand for what we believe in. I think we should hold the Democrats accountable for their extremism, supporting abortion all the way up until the moment of birth. That is infanticide, and that is wrong.
Let me ask Governor Christie. Governor Christie, do you think that Republicans...
Yes, I will.
Okay, Governor Christie, do you think that Republicans can do that in Arizona if this referendum is on the ballot there?
Yeah, because I did it in New Jersey, Dana.
Then why are all these other states losing?
Well, because they don't have leaders in those states who are leading the fight the way it should be led. And the fact is, look,
he's not wrong about that. I live in Kansas.
Represented up here. This is where the fight is really tough for
and there was
Republicans.
no
And those are
leadership
states
on
that
the
we're gonna have to
abortion.
try to win if we're going to win the White House
amendment.
back. And what we did is 14 times, Dana,
And the
in 8
media
years,
just
I've vetoed
lied
Planned Parenthood
about
funding.
what the
14
damn bill
times.
said.
No one else gets it that
Or
much. The Democrats just kept
referendum,
sending it
rather.
to me, and I kept saying no because I believe in life, but I also believe in states' rights. And I think we fought hard against Roe versus Wade for decades to say that states should make these decisions. So we're going to have those fights in the states. But what you need is a
God, I'm
leader
agreeing
who
with
can talk to
Christie
people and
again.
make them
No.
understand that if you're pro-life, you have to be pro-life for the entire life, not just the 9 months in the womb. And we talked a lot about fentanyl tonight, and we haven't spoken one moment about treatment. But we need to make sure that for the drug-addicted 16-year-old on the floor of the county lockup her life is precious too. And we need to be providing treatment to cure this as a disease that it is. If you're pro-life, you got to be pro-life for the entire life. We start talking like that, they're going to do what I did in the blue state, which was get reelected with 61% of the vote and won 70% of independents and 51% of Latinos.
Why is it the federal government?
I told them the truth from my heart.
Now, look, if you want to regulate the damn big pharma to make them more
73% of
responsible,
Latino voters think the Republican Party doesn't care about
I gotta think about
or is
that.
being hostile toward them, the Hispanic community. Only Governor DeSantis has translated his campaign into Spanish. How will you reach out to Latino voters?
Well, I promise you that we're going to continue to build bridges to every community in this country. And I'm incredibly proud of that.
Alexa, play
tax cut and tax
Despacito.
reform bill. I worked on Capitol Hill to help get that bill passed into law, the largest tax cut in American history. We saw literally the lowest unemployment ever recorded for Hispanic Americans, the lowest unemployment ever recorded for African Americans, 50-year low for women. So I think the President of the United States needs to be a champion for the American dream for every American. It begins with the unborn and the aged and the infirm, and it begins with every ethnic group in this country. And I promise you, if I'm President of the United States, I'll be a champion. I'll be a champion for the American dream, for Hispanic Americans, and for every American. So help me God.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yes, there's no doubt that if you lead by example,
She asked
it's
how.
the best way to get the
She
job
asked
done.
how,
If you look
and
at my
neither of you
office
fuckers
in
are
the
saying
Senate,
how.
My chief of staff is the only Hispanic female chief of staff in the Senate.
Who cares?
I hired her because she was the best, highest qualified person we have. What we need are leaders who lead by example. And I will simply say, I would love to finish my conversation with Nikki as it relates to the job that needs to get done. Nikki offered a 10-cent gas tax increase in South Carolina. Talk about someone who has
What's
never
that got to do with
seen
Hispanic
a federal
voters?
dollar she doesn't like.
God damn.
10 cents on the gallon in South Carolina. As the UN ambassador, you literally
Bring it,
put
Tim.
$50,000 on curtains in a $15 million subsidized location. Next.
You got bad information. First of all, I fought the gas tax in South Carolina multiple times against the establishment.
Just go to YouTube.
Against the establishment.
Just go to
and you
YouTube
want
and
to
see
know
it
what
for
that
yourself.
10 cent
Yep.
was? When they wouldn't pass the gas tax, the establishment and the companies wanted me to do it so much that I said the only way I will.
We're back on energy and gas taxes and not the topic. Now, granted, I give no shits
If you will give me 3
about what
times the
race-based
deduction in
bullshit
income tax,
the moderators
then I will
want to
look at
talk
your
about,
gas
but
tax. That's why it didn't happen.
it's still part of the debate format.
Here is a nice part.
Secondly, on the curtains, do your
Yes.
homework, Tim, because Obama bought those curtains.
Did you send them back?
It's in the press.
Did you send them back?
It's the State Department.
Did you send them back?
you send them back? You're the one that works in Congress.
Oh my gosh.
You get it
You
done.
hung them on your curtains.
They were there before I even showed up at the residence. You are
here's a-
scrapping.
What
You
the
are
fuck?
scrapping. Excuse me. You know
These personal nips, man, they suck.
You wanted a gas tax increase, and then you wanted
Ladies and gentlemen, we do not intend to go ahead like this. In fact, we're about to take a commercial break.
Commercial
We'll have
break?
more of the
There's like
second
7
Republican
minutes
debate
left.
Live from the Reagan Presidential
God damn
Library
it.
in just a few moments.
Look, folks. Look, folks. Here's the thing. I ain't got shit to talk about because really nothing happened there but a bunch of pissing matches and babbling on. Like, again, the only good thing from that whole fucking segment was they finally let Burgum talk a little bit about his policies. And again, I can't necessarily endorse any of these candidates yet. I think they're all fucking milquetoast fuck nuggets. And honestly, I still can't support Trump the whole way either. Because like I said the last time, none of these candidates are really talking about the banks and the Federal Reserve. Vivek Ramaswamy was the first one to mention the phrase Federal Reserve, but his solution was put another swamp creature in there who's on our side. Well, no, you have to audit the Federal Reserve. You have to bring the debt into balance. You know, you got to see what you're fucking working with. God damn. And these personal, like, everyone's jockeying for a little bit of time. And you're gonna get this, your cunt hair in a bunch, and not just Nikki Haley, I'm talking about all of them, gonna get your cunt hair in a bunch over one little thing that's part of one guy's campaign, and you're gonna take up so much time on this nationally televised stage where all 8 of you are supposed to be talking about your policies, or I guess 7, yeah. All 7 of you are supposed to be talking about your policies, and instead you're nitpicking these little fucking details of the other guy's thing. You know, that's what your campaign ads are for. That's what your websites are for. That's what your social media is for. If Nikki and Tim Scott want to have this little nitpick over some fucking curtains, do it on social media. This is about policy. We need to be talking about policy, not wasting the time. The limited time we get on Fox News and Univision, Fox Business Channel even, we can't even get regular Fox News. We definitely can't get your fucking local Fox affiliate to carry a presidential debate. No, we have this limited time where we get to hear from all the candidates without the bullshit spin that we get on the campaign trail. We need to hear them actually debate, talk their policies, and be able to bounce the ideas off of one another so that we know which candidate has the strongest policy. And instead, they're resorting to this bullshit and talking over one another and trying to monopolize the stage. Well, folks, most people that give any shits about this Republican debate are doing what you folks out there in my audience are doing. They're watching with commentary. I would argue, I don't know how many viewers Fox Business Channel is getting, but most people, they're going to get the clips. They're either watching right now with commentary or they're going to get clips. People give no shits about you monopolizing the stage, because guess what? They've monopolized their own stage. I've monopolized this stage. We have the users in the chat have monopolized my stage. Fuck yeah. I'm here because of you folks, not because of these fuckers. And the more time they waste up there, fucking DeSantis wasn't even asked a question, just decides to inject and start rambling about, well, 9/11, and I signed up for the military, and I'm the only president. I think I'd make a good president because I'd be a commander-in-chief who served in wartime. And we haven't had that in a while. Like, what does that have to do with policy? You're up there masturbating. You're literally sitting up there masturbating. You may not have your genitals in your hand, but you're verbally stroking yourself to orgasm. And they're coming back.
And candidates. It's now obvious that if you all stay in the race, former President Donald Trump wins the nomination. None of you have indicated that you're dropping out. So, which one of you on stage tonight should be voted off the island? Please use your marker to write your choice on the notepad in front of you. 15 seconds starting now. Of the people on the stage, who should be? I'm absolutely serious.
With all due respect, I mean, we're here, like, you know, we're happy to debate, but I think that that's disrespectful to my fellow competitors.
Nobody wants to participate.
Let's do some questions. Let's talk about the future of the country.
All right. I want to be clear.
Let me ask you this.
If I may.
Let me ask you something. Yeah. Then if you won't answer that question, let me ask you this one.
Yeah.
What is your mathematical path?
Yes.
Governor DeSantis, in order to try to beat President Trump, who has a commanding and enduring lead in this race?
So polls don't elect presidents. Voters elect presidents. Right. And we're going to take the case of the people in these early states. We're going to do it in a state-by-state direction. And why? Because as Reagan said in his day, this is our time for choosing. We are not getting a mulligan on the 2024 election. Republicans have lost 3 straight elections in a row. We were supposed to have a red wave with inflation at 9%. It crashed and burned. Not in Florida, it didn't. We delivered it in Florida. And so we've got to choose right. We've got to win. And we need somebody that's going to be able to serve 2 terms. So in January of 2023, they'll be able to address the nation saying, we turned the economy around, we secured the border, and we fended off the threat from communist China. As your president, I will get that job done.
Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something. Governor Christie, I believe, excuse me, Governor Christie, I believe I did see you write something on the card. Who was it?
No, but I'll certainly tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I think I've been the only one on this stage who's been clear about this. I vote Donald Trump off the island right now. And the reason I vote him off the island.
You just lost. You just lost. You literally just fucked yourself.
Republican voters to come here to express their views.
Oh my God, I'm watching it commit seppuku right now. Holy shit.
For every man and woman on this stage, because they've done it. Vivek, put your hand down for a second, would you? I still got that.
When all the other candidates were like, we all have a right to run.
Here, look.
Let the voters decide. He's like, no, I get to decide. I'm the Nazi.
This country. He's divided friends all over this country. I've spoken to people, and I know everyone else has, who have sat at Thanksgiving dinner or at a birthday party and can't have a conversation anymore if they disagree with Donald Trump. He needs to be voted off the island, and he needs to be taken out of this process.
Can we get Vivek 15 seconds?
All right, you got 15 seconds, Vivek.
Look, I have a different view on this. I think Trump was an excellent president, but the America First agenda does not belong to one man. It does not belong to Donald Trump. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you, the people of this country. And the question is, who's going to unite this country and take the America First agenda to the next level? When we rallied behind the cry to make America great again, we did not just hunger for a single man. We hungered for the unapologetic pursuit of excellence. So yes, I will respect Donald Trump and his legacy because it's the right thing to do. But we will unite this country to take the
you're rambling now. Shut the fuck up. The show's over.
That does it. I repeat, that does it for the second Republican primary debate live from the Ronald Reagan presidential.
Thank God.
Thank you to all the candidates. We've loved having you here tonight, and we will see you out on the campaign trail.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, oh my Lord, I have gone 3 hours. I haven't even had to pee. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you to all of the candidates on the stage. Thank you to Fox Business Channel. Thank you to Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, aka X. Thank you to Yellowstone Bourbon. And yeah, I'm a little too drunk to name you all by name, but yes, I've been paying so close attention to the chat. I definitely hope to see you all here again. If you can, hit that like button, hit that follow button, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Catch me next time. I try to do most of my streams Wednesday nights and Saturdays, 6 p.m. Central, right here on www.rumble.com/mild/live and over at the Mild World on YouTube and X. And I'm forgetting something, but oh well. Thank you again for coming. That's the show for tonight. Catch you next time. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Outlast the haters. Don't get any on you. And if you do, rub that shit in real good. Mild's Culture Plate signing off. Peace.